1 Twistianity. Devil's advocate. Plague of death. 1. Torah teaching. Guided or enslaved. Having ventured to this point in Christendom's foundational treatise, its first written record, we have come to the place in Galatians where the author, a wannabe apostle at war with the world, told his emerging church that they could and should discard the Torah of the God he claimed was inspiring him. After burnishing his ego, burning the competition, and repudiating his audience, Paul opined a clever scheme to bypass the word of God and replace it with a plot of his own, faith in his Evangelion charis gospel of grace. This preposterous proposition was, however, incredulous because there weren't any gospels at this time, and there wouldn't be for another 3 to 5 decades. Christians were caught unaware, not only because religious faith sequesters reason, but also because the Roman Catholic Church reshuffled the deck, reordering the cards such that story time begins with the hearsay accounts wrongly attributed to authors writing long after the ink on Paul's 14 epistles had dried. In other words, the Gospels were written 3 to 5 decades after Galatians was scribed. Then, making Paul's claim even more dubious, there wasn't a single accurate citation from his replacement deity, the murdered man God Isound Christen Jesus Christ anywhere to be found within the Pauline epistles, not a peep. Therefore, the faith of every Christian hangs upon a theory proposed by an irrational and inarticulate man who openly admitted that he was too murderous, a sexual deviant, and demon-possessed. The Evangelion charis gospel of grace was entirely Paul's brainchild. And while novel in its inception, it was also unsubstantiated and irrational. Paul's scheme was based upon a twisted portrayal of Abraham and his participation in the covenant which bypassed the Torah. But what makes this so perplexing is that Abraham and his relationship with Yahowah would be unknown if not chronicled in the Torah Paul was attempting to write out of his story. It is ridiculous to believe that the one and only place that chronicles the development of the covenant is irrelevant to it. This is equivalent to saying that believers can do away with the New Testament and still relate to Jesus Christ when he is completely unknown apart from it. Paul's deep dive into the rabbit hole of oblivion was even more concerning because he made it impossible for Christians to benefit from the covenant. Without knowing where Abraham began his journey, what Yahowah said to him, and how he responded, there is no way to understand what God is offering or expects in return. The 5 conditions and 5 benefits of the covenant are conveyed in a dozen chapters of Bereshit/Genesis, all of which were dismissed by Paul. Without this record, there is nothing left, nothing to know, respond to, or accept. Paul perpetrated this fraud because he had a different agenda. His intent was to negate the Torah, to demean Yahowah and his covenant, to besmirch the people through whom it was offered and conveyed, and then replace them and it with Gentiles and a New Testament. But there is no rational basis for any of this. The Galatian theory is far more egregious than just championing a fundamental disagreement with God because the Berith is the only reason man and the universe exist and the Torah is the only place it is presented for 3R consideration. Therefore, with this jaundiced proposition, Sha'uwl was attempting to rip out God's heart and stomp on it for the benefit of his Lord and Master. So now, before we resume our consideration of Paul's irrational assault on Yahowah's Torah, since most readers may be somewhat unfamiliar with Yahowah's teaching, a review of God's perspective on his Torah is in order. Please consider the following citations regarding the Torah, the terms and conditions of its covenant, and the overall relevance of the words and teaching of our God. I am Eni, Yahowah, a transliteration of Yehovah as instructed in his Torah, teaching regarding his Haya, existence. This is my name, Hu, Shem, Eni. And, Wa, my honorable distinction and respect, Kabod Eni, my attribution of status, my conspicuous reputation and presence, and my manifestation of power, especially my glorious reward, I will not give, lo, Nathan, I will not ever offer or allow, bestowing, to another, La, Acre, one who appears later or lingers around, or, Wa, my renown and reputation, Tehila Eni, the adoration I have earned and admiration I deserve, to religious constructs, La Hapasul, idolatrous notions and objects of worship believed to represent gods. Yashayah/Yah liberates/Isaiah 42 verse 8. This known, Yashayah said the following on behalf of Yahowah, not Jesus. Yahowah, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yehovah, our Eloah, God as directed in his Towrah, teaching regarding his Haya existence and our Shalom, restoration, was willing, even desirous, Chafes, he was inclined and pleased, for the sake of Laman, his sense of honesty and fairness, as well as his commitment to doing what is right, Tzedek, for his determination to be correct and acquitting, vindicating and just, to extend his nurturing and empowering, enriching and enabling, Gadol, to offer his growth facilitating and magnifying, Torah teaching and instruction, guidance and direction, Torah, and to openly display its worth, while proving its glorious intent, Wa, Adar, to demonstrate its high and noble calling and honorable outcome. Yashayah/Yah liberates and saves/Isaiah 42 verse 21. Our Messiah and Savior wrote the Mashal/Proverbs. In the 4th, he stated, choose to listen, Shama, hear this message, children, Ben, sons, to the correct instruction, Musar, to the accurate teaching, the correction and warning, of the Father, up. Of your own volition, pay attention, accept as true, and then respond, Kashab, listen, process, consider, and consent to this information and reply appropriately, coming to know and acknowledge, Yada, finding, becoming aware of and familiar with, respecting and revealing, the insights which lead to understanding by making the connections while being discerning, Bina, the means to comprehend through observation and consideration so as to be intelligent and distinguish between right and wrong, fact and fiction. Mashal/Proverbs 4 verse 1. This is because, this is important, trustworthy, and reliable, such teaching and learning, lakach, receiving instruction and possessing it to the point of comprehension through persuasive and applicable words, are good, beneficial, and helpful, taub, are proper, prosperous, pleasing, enjoyable, and valuable. For this reason I have given you, Nathan Ada, therefore, for this purpose, I have actually provided and bestowed you with the completed gift of, my Torah, Torah-any, from To, my signed, written, and enduring, Torah, way of treating people, Torah, providing the means to explore, 5 seek, find, and choose, Yara, the source from which my instruction, teaching, guidance, and direction flow, which Tub, offers answers that facilitate restoration and return, a response that is Taub. Good, pleasing, joyful, beneficial, favorable, and right, and that which enables a loving means to become acceptable and to endure, Tahar, purifying and cleansing Torah. So as to provide an opportunity to change your thinking, attitude, and direction. You should not forsake, neglect, or reject it, al-azab, without it you will be forsaken, neglected, rejected, abandoned, separated, and left behind. Mashal/Proverb 4:2. Indeed, KY, this is important, reliable, and true, I am, Haya, I was, I am, and I will be, a son, Ben, a child, approaching, La, with and for, my father, of any, a uniquely sensitive and compassionate child whose words evoke mercy, Rak Yakid, a very special and compassionate, tender-hearted and coddled son living the good life, in the presence of my mother, La M. Any. Mashal/Proverb 4:3. And he has continually taught and guided me, Yara Any, he has been and will continue to be the source of my instruction, support, and direction, showing me the way. And he said to me, Amar La Any, he told me, choose to grasp hold of, Tamak, seize upon, receive and accept, my words, Dabar Any, my message, upon your heart to enhance your judgment, Leb Ada, as a means to make good decisions and influence your inclinations. Choose to closely examine and carefully consider, shamar, of your own free will observe, focus upon, thoughtfully contemplate, and thoroughly evaluate, the instructive terms and conditions of my relationship agreement, mitzvah any, the directions and instructions regarding my covenant contract, and live, wachaya, be restored to life, embracing the source of continuous and sustained growth, which is healthy, beneficial, and 6 abundant, accepting the promise of renewal and restoration. Mashal/word pictures/Proverb 4:4. Dowd David is both the author of this mashal and the son, making him the son of God, so we can rely upon his advice. He attained this honor by listening to his father and doing as God instructed. By gleaning insights from Yahowah's Torah, Dowd came to understand the terms and conditions of the covenant and embodied them. If this approach was good enough for Dowd, it is good enough for you and me. After all, he is Yahowah's beloved, our Messiah and King. God's shepherd would also write. For indeed, KY, the instructive conditions of the relationship, mitzvah, the terms of the covenant, are a lamp, and the Torah, the written and enduring source of instruction, teaching, guidance, and direction, is a light, illuminating, or, the way, derek, the path, of life, the source of continuous and sustained existence, abundant growth, of revival, renewal, and restoration, the promise of the most favorable of circumstances, prosperity, and blessings. Mashal/word pictures/Proverb 6:23. Our Savior's father offered this advice to his firstborn. My son, Benny, my child, choose to observe, shamar, elect to focus upon, carefully examine, diligently consider, and thoughtfully evaluate, agree to pay close attention to and genuinely care about, imperative indicating that an actual relationship will be established between father and son should the child choose of their own volition to pay attention to this exhortation to revere and regard, my words, Emer, my answers, explanations, and promises. And, my terms and conditions, mitzvah, my authorized directions and 7 binding instructions regarding my covenant contract, you should habitually treasure and store, soften, you should value and keep, imperfect affirming the relationship between us and Yah's terms and conditions ought to be genuine because by properly valuing them, their influence will be ongoing, producing everlasting results, with you, Yeth. Choose to keep focused upon, closely examining and carefully considering, shamar, elect to actually observe, pay close attention to, and genuinely care about, imperative, my instructive conditions, mitzvah any, my authorized terms and binding directions regarding the relationship agreement, and, live, chaya, be restored and renewed, be nourished and grow, imperative, affirming that our decision to observe the terms is equivalent to choosing to be restored to life and living forever. My Torah teaching, Torah any, my Torah instruction, guidance, and direction, from To, my signed, written, and enduring, Torah, way of treating people, Torah, providing the means to explore, seek, find, and choose, Yara, the source from which my instruction, teaching, guidance, and direction flow, which Tub, provides answers which facilitate restoration and return by replying to that which is Taub, good, pleasing, joyful, beneficial, favorable, and right, and that which enables loving acceptance to Tahor, purifying and cleansing, Tor, so as to provide an opportunity to change one's thinking, attitude, and direction, should be considered as and akin to, the pupil, the center, and the focus, Ishon, the extant essence and individual nature, of your eyes for understanding, ayin, your sight and perceptions, your perspective and thoughts. Mashal/word pictures/Proverbs 7:1-2. The Messiah proclaimed something which impugns Paul's tactics. 8-inch the wicked, Raza, the guilty and condemned who deserve to be punished, those in violation of the standard, arrogantly boast and make fools of themselves, Sha'uwl, they are flashy, and while pretending to be bright and enlightened they display an improper attitude of haughtiness, glorifying themselves, praising themselves they mock and slander, by abandoning and rejecting, asah, by forsaking and separating from, by neglecting and disassociating from, by departing from and ignoring, the Torah, the signed, written, and enduring means to search for, find, and choose the instruction, teaching, guidance, and direction which provides answers which facilitate our restoration and return that are good, pleasing, joyful, beneficial, favorable, and right, purifying and cleansing, providing the opportunity and means to change our thinking, attitude, and direction to the way which is more fortuitous and beneficial. And those who observe, focusing upon, shamar, those who closely examine and carefully consider, the Torah, instruction, teaching, guidance, and direction, they take the initiative to oppose and resist them. Ba, they are overtly hostile to them and they provoke them, they actively engage against them and irritate them by not conforming to their pressure or power. Evil, wicked and violent, mischievous and malignant, wrong-minded and corrupt, individuals, men, do not, understand, make the connections to comprehend, consider, perceive, instruct, or thoughtfully implement, the means to exercise good judgment, mishpat, the proper way to resolve disputes, to be discriminating, to be fair, to obtain justice, and to make sound decisions. But, those who diligently seek, bakas, those whose search and investigation allows them to procure the information necessary to learn about, Yahowah, the pronunciation of Yahowah as guided by his Torah, 9 teaching regarding his Haya, existence, consider and understand, apprehend, perceive, and realize, everything, Mashal/word pictures/Proverb 28:4-5. The Son of God announced something else which scuttles Christianity. The one who turns away his ear from hearing, sur ozen min shama, the one who avoids listening to, the Torah, the source of instruction and direction, guidance and teaching, his prayers and requests, tefillah, his pleas and petitions for intervention, as a result, gam, will be considered detestable, toiba, will be seen as a disgusting abomination. The one who misleads, saga, the one who deceives and leads astray, the upright, yasher, the straightforward, in the way, derek, of error, ra, in that which is harmful, malignant, and adversarial, severing the relationship, into the pit, shakath, the place where one is brought down, prostrating themselves in worship before false gods and reduced to despair, he will fall and be cast down, naphal, he will descend from a higher position to a lower one, wasting away. However, the innocent, tamim, those who have been perfected, who are genuine and unblemished, will enjoy a good, generous, and beneficial inheritance, taubnakel, will inherit and acquire that which is agreeable, moral, joyous, and valuable. Mashal/word pictures/Proverb 28:9-10. Yahowah's beloved exclaimed. Without revelation, chazon, with no communication from God, without prophecy, from chaza, without seeing and perceiving, without understanding, people, take charge and run wild, para, they are 10 ignorant and they take their own initiative, behaving like an unrestrained mob. But, he is happy and blessed by walking upright on the correct path, Isher/Asher, he finds good fortune and experiences great joy along the restrictive but valid, straight way to stand safe and secure, whoever observes and focuses upon, shamar, who closely examines and carefully considers, the Torah, source of teaching, instruction, direction, and guidance. Mashal/word pictures/Proverb 29:18. The one who is returning with Yahowah as King of Kings revealed in his first song that it would be best to disavow the likes of Paul. Blessed and happy is, Asrai, by walking the straight path the enjoyment of a favorable outcome awaits, the individual, who, Asher, does not walk, halak, in, the plans and schemes, the strategy, advice, and counsel, of the wicked who pervert and corrupt the standard, raza, of those who are misleading and unrighteous. And in, the way, derek, path, of those who are misleading, chada, of the offensive who have missed the way, he does not stand, amad, he does not appear and is not even present. In the assembly, moshab, in the dwelling places and settlements, the communities and households, of those who arrogantly mock, of those who boast and interpret while showing no respect, he does not stay, yazab, dwell, live, settle down, sit, or remain. To the contrary, instead, in, the Torah of Yahowah, the teaching, instruction, guidance, and direction of Yahowah, he finds enjoyment and pleasure, shefetz, he prefers, refers, and desires. And regarding, the Torah, teaching, instruction, guidance, and direction, he speaks thoughtfully and purposefully, haga, he reviews the 11 material, meditates upon the information, considers its implications, and then makes the decision to roar, declaring these conclusions forcefully, emotionally, and powerfully, kal and perfect, telling us that these informed declarations on behalf of Yah's instructions are genuine and ongoing, during the day, yomam, in the heat of the day. And at night, layla, in the darkness and shadows. Mizmor/Song/Psalm 1 verses 1-2. Since those are the first recorded words of the firstborn of God, our shepherd and Messiah, our Savior and King, it would be wise to toss the entirety of Paul's New Testament in the trash and focus entirely on the Word of God as presented in the Torah, Nabi, Mizmor. The man Yahowah hailed as Tzadak wrote. Yahowah is, a transliteration of Yahowah as instructed in his Torah, teaching regarding his Haya, existence, Torah, source of teaching and instruction in the place from which direction and guidance flow, is wholly complete and entirely perfect, tamim, without defect, lacking nothing, totally correct, genuine, right, helpful, healing, beneficial, and true, returning, restoring, and transforming, shub, turning around, bringing back, changing, and renewing, the soul. Nipesh, our consciousness. Yahowah is, Yahowah, written as directed by his Torah, teaching regarding his Haya, existence, eternal testimony, eduth, enduring witness, is trustworthy and reliable, aman, is instructive, informative, verifiable, confirming, and supportive, making understanding and obtaining wisdom, chakam, making education, learning, and enlightenment to the point of comprehension, easy for those who are receptive, pethi, simple for the open-minded. Yahowah is, Yahowah, a transliteration of, our Eloah, God as directed in his Torah, teaching 12 regarding his Haya, existence, directions, pikudim, instructions and prescriptions, precepts and guidance, from packet, that which we should pay especially close attention to, care about, look at, and examine so that we respond appropriately, are right, yasher, are straight, and thus neither crooked nor circuitous, and upright, and thus are disassociated from bowing down, they are approved, esteemed, correct, proper, and pleasing, causing the heart to rejoice, leb sama, facilitating an attitude of elation. Yahowah is, YYV3, an accurate presentation of the name of Eloah, God as guided by his Torah, instructions regarding his Haya, existence, terms and conditions, mitzvah, authorized instructions regarding the requirements of his covenant contract, are enlightening and purifying, bar, paving the way to inheritance, to clarification, and to comprehension, shining a light toward understanding, or akin, illuminating the proper perspective, shedding a brilliant light on the path to enlightenment. Revering and respecting, Yada Yahowah, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of YYV3, our Eloah, God as directed in his Towrah, teaching regarding his Haya existence and our Sha'uwl, restoration, is cleansing and restoring, Towrah, purifying and perfecting, sustaining and establishing, amad, causing one to be established, standing upright, forever, ad. The just means to resolve disputes of, mishpat, the means used to achieve justice and exercise good judgment of, Yahowah, the pronunciation of YYV3 as guided by his Torah, teaching regarding his Haya, existence, are trustworthy and reliable, emeth, are enduring, dependable, honest, and true. They are holy, Yada, altogether and completely, vindicating, tzaddak, justifying, causing the 13 recipient to be righteous and innocent. Mizmor/Song/Psalm 19 verses 7-9. While this pronouncement is a fait accompli for Paul's pathetic proposition, there is more. This is from the last of the prophets. Remember, Zakar, choose to recall and proclaim, Kal imperative, the Torah teaching and guidance, Torah, the instructions and directions, of Moseh, one who draws out, my servant, Ebed any, co-worker and associate, who revealed the benefits of the relationship, Asher. I instructed and directed him, who, I appointed him and placed him in charge, commissioning him, in Choreb, upon the knife's edge for cutting and separating, with the sharp engraving tool for writing, with the clearly communicated written prescriptions on how to live and be allocated a share of the relationship, Chak, and the means to execute good judgment, especially regarding the resolution of disputes, Wa Mishpat, on behalf of all, Al-Kol, Yisrael. Individuals who engage and endure with God. Malachi/my messenger /Malachi 4 verse 4. Yahowah is making a list and checking it twice to see who is Towrah-observant. And, then, YYV3 said, Amar, he expressed himself, to, Moseh, one who draws out, look at me, Hina any, pay attention to me and behold, I will send down, matar, I will provide so as to rain down, hyphal participle, God will cause the nourishment to descend in a demonstrable way, to you, la Adam, for you, nourishment, lechem, food, and particularly bread, from Lakham, to prevail and overcome by consuming, from the heavens, min hashemayim, out of the spiritual realm. 14 And the people, kin, related individuals, and family, should go out, yatsa, should extend themselves, coming out, kal perfect, should actually be brought out at this time, and gather up, walakit, and glean by picking up and collecting, bringing together the harvest of, kal perfect, the word, daber, the message and account, the declaration and statement, of the day, yaum, at this time, ba yaumhu, in this moment, such that, laman, so that and for the express purpose. An intent that, I may test their ongoing motivation to determine if they choose, nezahu, I can ascertain and determine the true nature of their desires and inclinations over time to assess whether they want, peel imperfect energic non-jussive, God is continually and emphatically testing our decision-making as we make choices which indicate our intent, to walk, halak, to travel, going through life, kal imperfect, actually and consistently going about, in my Torah. Teaching and guidance. Ba Torah any, with my directions and instructions, from Yara, to provide a source from which guidance, directions, teaching, and instructions flow, or not, lo, or to the contrary, without. Shemoth/names/Exodus 16 verse 4. Also from the Torah, this was directed at Moses. So now then, Ada, listen to, Shama, hear, Kal imperative, actually choose to pay attention, that which is associated with my voice, Ba Kal any. I have determined a plan for you, Ya'atz Ada, I have decided upon a course of action for you and I am providing this advice, Kal imperfect, such that, God, Elohim, will choose to continue to be with you, Haya him Ada, in a continued association with, near, and alongside you, Kal imperfect Jussiv, will want to actually and continually exist with you. You can consistently be yourself in your approach to the people, Haya Adala am, you can be you toward 15 the family, Kal imperative, before, mule, in front of, the Almighty, Ha Elohim. Then you can come and go bringing, bow, so you can be included in bearing, hyphal perfect, the messages and accounts, dabrim, the words, of the Almighty, Elohim, with you, Ada, eth. Shemoth 18:19. And you can warn them about ensuing consequences, Zahar, ethem, you can caution and admonish them, teaching and influencing them at that moment, hyphal perfect, with the clearly communicated and engraved prescriptions of what one should do in life to be cut into the relationship, eth ha-chak, through the inscribed means to be prepared to be offered a share of what has been apportioned, along with, eth, the Torah teaching and guidance, ha-Torah, the instruction and directions, so that they know and understand, yada, and they will appreciate and acknowledge, be aware of and comprehend, hyphal perfect, the way forward for them, lahem, eth ha-derek, the path for them with regard to the direction, to walk, halak, to travel through life, kal imperfect, within it, ba high. And they will choose to act upon and engage in, asah, then they will be highly energetic and do, in perfect pedagogic non-jussive, that which, for the benefit of the relationship, asher, they should expend their energy in work upon, hamaseh, they should accomplish and occupy themselves. Shemoth/names/Exodus 18 verse 20. The following excerpt is from the conclusion of the concluding book of the Torah. Here we find affirmation that the word and the Torah are synonymous and that both can be found in proximity to the Ark of the Covenant. And, it came to exist, haya, it came to pass, imperfect, just as, consistent with when, Moseh, the one who draws out, completely finished 16, kala, concluded, peel infinitive, writing, lakathab, inscribing using a written alphabet to more permanently communicate, engraving and inscribing, infinitive, the words, dabrim, the statements and accounts, of this Torah, ha-Torah ha-zoth, of the one and only Torah instruction and teaching, guidance and direction, upon a written scroll, al-separ, such that the eternal and restoring witness was perfect and complete, ad tamam hem, dabrim/words 31:24, then, Moseh, instructed, saw, directed and appointed, the loi, ha-loam, those who join together and unite, transliterated, Levites, from law, to unite and abide, who lifted up and carried, nasa, who raised and bore, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yahowah, our Eloah, God as directed in his Towrah teaching regarding his existence in our Sha'uwl restoration, ark, around, chest of enlightenment, choice, and gathering together, of the covenant, berith, of the family-oriented relationship agreement, by saying, la amar, by asking and announcing, dabrim/words 31-25. Accept and grasp hold of, lakach, obtain and receive, infinitive, the written scroll, separ, the written letter and inscribed document designed to recount, relate, rehearse, and declare, of this, the Torah, ha-Torah hazeh, of this teaching and guidance, and place it, wasim, ethu, and put it, alongside, min sad, near and beside, Yahowah's, a transliteration of Yahowah as instructed in his Torah, teaching regarding his haya, existence, your gods, Elohim. Adam, ark, around, chest of enlightenment, choice, and gathering together, of the covenant, berith, of the family-oriented relationship agreement. And it will always exist, wahaya, it was, is, and actually will be, perfect, there, sham, with you, ada, as an eternal witness of the restoring testimony 17, ed/ad, as enduring evidence, Dabrim/words/Deuteronomy 31 verse 26. By listening to Yahowah, Moses was equipped to convey what we need to know to live forever in the promised land. And while that is sufficient to justify our sojourn back in time to Choreb, by gathering around Yah's liberator, Moses, with hands cupping our ears so that we do not miss a word, there is something more to what he had to say than anyone was aware of at the time. Speaking to the children of Yisrael circa 1447 BCE during the Yatzah withdrawal from the troubling oppression of religious and political control and influence, the great prophet was addressing us, you and me, here and now. So now at this time, ada, here, now, and henceforth, straightaway without delay, Yisrael individuals striving to engage and endure with God, Yisrael, choose to listen, shama, of your own volition, decide to hear, receive the message, and seek to comprehend, imperative, desire to literally and genuinely listen as an expression of volition in the second person, to the clearly communicated and inscribed prescriptions for living, el-ha-chak, to the thoughtful requirements which have been appointed and engraved to cut you into the relationship, to that which has been etched into stone and delineated to allocate a share of what has been allotted for those with the resolve to act upon what has been prescribed, from chakak, to cut out, inscribe, engrave, mark out, and portray something whereby the proper response is required to receive a share of the allotment, and to the means to execute good judgment to correctly resolve disputes, el-hamishpat. To the means to make the right decision about what is good and bad, right and wrong, and so that you can correctly assess what is true and false, deciding upon that which is beneficial and avoiding that which is counterproductive, from to contemplate the implications of Shabat, 18 making good decisions by being judgmental, discerning, and discriminating, which, to provide the correct path to the relationship, Asher, I am teaching and instructing you, Anaki Lamed, Adam, I have learned to the extent that I can impart the information and provide valuable training for you so that you can respond intelligently, Peel participle, so that you can vividly demonstrate that you are learned, for the express purpose that you will be able to act upon them and engage based upon them, la, asah laman, so that you can do them, profiting from them and capitalizing upon the effort you make regarding them, to live, chaya, to be restored, revived, and thrive, living forever and flourishing, imperfect jussive. And then, as a result, you can return and enter, being included within, bow, you can at this moment come to and abide within, perfect, even inherit, yerash, and come to possess as an heir, that which is associated with the land, ets ha-eretz, which, as a benefit of the relationship, Asher, Yahowah, the pronunciation of Yahowah, the God of your fathers, Elohim, of Adam, is giving to you, Nathan la Adam, is offering to you and bestowing for you. Dabrim 4:1. That is Yahowah's message, and it is all that matters in this regard. The religious cannot augment it, alter it, or abate it, no matter how shrill their voices are otherwise. The New Testament is as errant as the Talmud. You should not ever add to, lo, yasaf al, you should not increase by joining something else onto, the word, ha-dabr, the statements and message, which, to reveal the benefits of the relationship, Asher, which, to show the correct way to walk to get the most out of life, I am instructing you, Enkit saw, Adam, I have told you about by providing directions to you, having appointed and constituted as signs for you by establishing and prescribing the binding terms and instructive conditions of 19 the authorized agreement, thereby enjoining and defining the decreed contract. Further, you should never subtract, while lo gara, also never reduce, decrease, remove, withhold, or diminish, from it, minhu. This is so that you can closely examine and carefully consider, la shamar, approaching by observing and contemplating, the instructive conditions of the authorized agreement, mitzvah, the directions to the appointed pact which was constituted with the prescribed terms of the mutually binding covenant, thereby enjoining and defining the contract presented upon this signed arrangement, from I, to consider the who, what, why of tsa, the instructions and directions of the terms and conditions of the agreement which has been established, of Yahowah, God's name transliterated as guided by his Torah, instructions on his Haya, existence, your God, Elohim Adam, which leads along the proper path to get the most out of life that, Asher, which reveal the benefits of the relationship that I have told you about by providing directions to you, having appointed and constituted these signs for you, by establishing the prescribed terms and instructive conditions of the authorized agreement. Enki Tsa, Adam, I am instructing you, thereby enjoining and defining the decreed contract. Dabrim/words/Deuteronomy 4 verse 2. Through his prophet, Moseh, Yahowah has given us everything we need to know to live forever. His word is sufficient to instruct and direct us, then, now, and forevermore. We are advised to observe it, but never change or annul it as Paul has done, but so have the rabbis. By way of example, of the roughly 33,000 words spoken in modern Hebrew, fewer than 8,000 were derived from the Torah, while over 20,000 came from the Talmud, clearly demonstrating the people's preference. Most of the remaining 5,000 are from English due to it being the 20 most common language spoken by Jews and the leader in technological advances, for which there were no Hebrew terms available. As a result, modern Hebrew is so sullied by the religious pretense of the Talmud that it is no longer the most appropriate language to convey Yahowah's intent throughout the Torah. What they have also missed is that their Hashem, the competitive Jesus Christ, and Lord God represent the same myth Yahowah has dealt with previously. Your eyes have seen, Ein Adam Ha'ara'ah, you have witnessed and are able to perceive, Kal participle, that which, for the benefit of the relationship, Asher, Yahowah, Yahowah did, asah, accomplished and caused, performed and accomplished, Kal perfect, with Baal power the Lord of enlightenment and the popular way, Baal power, with the false god of the Moabites, Phoenicians, Canaanites, and Babylonians who is open to everyone and appears as light, from Baal, Lord and Master, one who owns, possesses, and controls, the wide open and broad way of those who talk too much and for those who yawn, and, or, light. Indeed, emphasizing this point, all of the men, Kol ha-Aish, every individual, who followed after, Asher Halak Achar, who formed a relationship with and conducted their life in accordance with another, Baal power the Lord of light and the open way, Baal power, the false god of the Moabites, Phoenicians, Canaanites, and Babylonians, from Baal, Lord and Master, one who owns, possesses, and controls, wide open and broad way of those who talk too much and for those who yawn, and, or, light, Yahowah, your God, Yahowah Elohim Adam, exterminated, Shamad who, destroyed and annihilated him, Hyphal perfect, from among you, Min Kerub Adam. Dabrim/words/Deuteronomy 4 verse 3. 21 often missed in this declaration is the meaning of Baal power, the Lord of enlightenment who controls the broad and open way. The Baal Lord is not God, but is, instead, Satan. He wants to, Baal, control, possess, own, and lord over, humankind while Yahowah wants to liberate and guide his people. Baal the Lord's path, while away from Yahowah, is nevertheless perceived to be, or, enlightening. The religious, who preside over the popular, broad, and open ways, aka, religion, even present the adversary as, light. It is how Sha'uwl Paul, the founder of the Christian religion, reported seeing him on the road to Damascus. Whether it is the popularity of the perceived enlightenment of the progressives, socialists, and communists or the even greater popularity of the many inviting ways of the religious, they are all paths to extinction. The way to Yahowah is just the opposite. It is restrictive, not broad, and it remains unpopular, with as few as 1 in a million finding it. Rather than being commonly known and widely traveled, it is set apart and distinct from the ways of man. And for all but the most recent 20 years out of the past 2,500, not a single, solitary soul walked along the path of the micro-EY invitations to be called out and meet to the Berith family covenant of Yahowah. As a result of man constantly moving away from God through religion and politics, all of those who chose to put their faith in the Lord have had their souls extinguished. You may want to keep that in mind if your religion pays homage to the Lord, Adoni, Hashem, GD, Allah, or Jesus Christ. Turns out, God is not all-loving, accepting, or tolerant. Instead, Yahowah's approach is compassionate and loving. It is not unlike segregating those infected with a 22 deadly plague from the rest of the community or isolating and incarcerating rapists, pedophiles, terrorists, and thieves. Those who were sent away were going to succumb to the disease anyway, but at least this way, there would be no cross-contamination or undue injury. And, you, Adam, the ones who stayed in touch, remaining close and steadfast, Dabek, who sought to be part of the relationship, staying together while engaging to continue in association, with, Yahowah, an accurate presentation of the name of Eloah, God as guided by his Torah, instructions regarding his Haya, existence, your God, Elohim Adam, you are all alive today, Chaim Kol, Adam Hayam, every one of you will be restored, continuing to exist, living at this time. Dabrim/Deuteronomy 4 verse 4. This is wonderful advice. You should choose to look and literally see, of your own volition, be observant and perceptive, and of your own free will actually consider what you have literally been shown, Cal imperative. I have learned and now teach, Lamed, I gain the information that I am imparting, accepting what I am conveying, a student who became an instructor, Peel perfect. In this moment in time I am teaching the one willing to listen, you, F. Adam, the clearly communicated and inscribed prescriptions for living, Chalk, the thoughtful requirements which have been appointed and engraved to cut you into the relationship, that which has been etched into stone and delineated to allocate a share of. What has been allotted for those with the resolve to act upon that which has been prescribed, from chakak, to cut out, inscribe, engrave, mark out, and portray something whereby the proper response is required to receive a share of the allotment, along with the means to execute good judgment and correctly resolve 23 disputes, wa mishpat. The way to make the right decision about what is good and bad, right and wrong so that you can correctly assess what is true and false, deciding upon that which is beneficial while avoiding that which is counterproductive, from to contemplate the implications of Shabat, making good decisions by being judgmental, discerning, and discriminating, for the express benefit and in a consistent manner as, Ka Asher, in the same way to reveal the path to walk to get the most out of life, Yahowah, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yahowah, our Eloah, God as directed in his Towrah, teaching regarding his Hayah, existence in our Sha'uwl, restoration, my God, Elohim, Eni, instructed me, saw, Eni, taught me by providing directions, having appointed and constituted as signs to establish the binding terms and instructive conditions of the authorized agreement, thereby enjoining and defining the decreed contract, Peel perfect, so that you will be able to act accordingly and engage appropriately, La asah akin, you could do thusly, thereby capitalizing and profiting, in the approach, Ba Karab, when you are present within, to the realm, Ha-eretz, the land, serving as a metaphor for God's home, which, as a benefit of the relationship, Asher, you will be returning to and entering, Adam Bow, you will be coming to, arriving at, and included within, Cal participle, there along with the name, Shem/Shem, here and now with this reputation and renown, to inherit it, La Yerash High, to gain possession as an heir based upon an ancestral agreement. Dabrim/words/Deuteronomy 4 verse 5. We should all carefully examine and thoughtfully consider what Moseh wrote while inspired by Yahowah. It is yet another reminder that the Torah was written, not oral, and that it improves and prolongs our lives. Yahowah is inviting us home, summoning us to return. He wants us to inherit the universe. 24 It is as if we were there, standing before Moseh, listening to the most important speech ever articulated to humankind. So then, you can be observant, shamar, you can closely examine and carefully consider, being focused, vigilant, and circumspect, cal perfect, and engage, asah, and act accordingly, expending the energy and effort to capitalize, cal perfect, because indeed, ky, then, this will provide you with the capacity and expertise to comprehend, chakma Adam. This will afford you with the skill and technical ability to process the information sensibly and the acumen to do so wisely. Being properly instructed and therefore prepared to teach, thereby preparing you to understand, Wabina Adam, to make the connections between the things you observe, come to know, and learn to appreciate and recognize the truth through the faculty of intelligent design and being discriminating, discerning, perceptive, judgmental, and insightful, from BYN. To be discerning and perceptive, sufficiently intelligent to distinguish between things, making the proper connections to determine the merit of what is being evaluated, leading to understanding. In the eyes of the people, Ba-Ein-Ha-Am, from the perspective of the family, who, Asher, who, to benefit from this relationship and to walk along the path to get the most out of life, listen to, Shama, consistently here, Kal imperfect, all of these clearly communicated and inscribed prescriptions for living, Kol Ha-Chak Ha-El-La, each thoughtful requirement which has been appointed and engraved to cut you into the relationship, and all of that which has been etched into stone and delineated to allocate a share of what has been allotted for those with the resolve to act upon that which has been prescribed, from chakak, to cut out, inscribe, engrave, mark out, and portray something whereby the proper response is required to receive a share of the allotment. 25 This is just beginning to occur as foretold 3,500 years ago. Then, they will confess, Amar, they will say, acknowledging at that moment, Cal perfect, unlike any other, Rak, uniquely, distinctly, exceptionally, and exclusively, this family, these people and this community, is knowledgeable and wise, Chakam, have shown the capacity to comprehend and possess the skill and acumen to learn when properly instructed, and what's more, this Gentile, Hagawi, this individual from a different ethnicity and place or nation, has demonstrated the ability to make the connections necessary to understand so as to convey meaning, BYN, he has come to realize and comprehend the information by being diligent and perceptive, deducing insights after receiving and processing the information judgmentally so as to share it and teach it, nifle participle masculine singular absolute, this one man, the Gawi, actively and demonstrably comes to understand so that he can impart understanding to many, doing so loudly and intensely through amplification. Haggadol, contributing something valuable and important with a great many words on behalf of numerous people, from Gadol, to grow and do great things, being magnified and amplified, for them, Hazeh. Dabrim/words/Deuteronomy 4 verse 6. It is always the best approach, shamar observe and then asah engage. It is akin to look before you leap. There are many conflicting claims of divine inspiration, from the New Testament to the Talmud, even the Quran, but only one is consistently correct, Yahowah's Torah teaching and Nabi prophets. Moseh explained that a time would come when Yisraelites Amar will acknowledge and confess that the covenant family is Rak unlike any other, distinct, special, and uniquely Chakam knowledgeable and wise. And to some extent, perhaps in large measure, this is the result of 26 the Gawi Gentile who pointed the way home, back to the family and into the covenant, by BYN imparting the information and sharing the insights derived by making the connections needed to understand what Yahowah is offering and expects in return. In this regard, Gawi can represent either a single individual from a different race and place, distinct from Yisrael, such as the Towrah-observant and responsive foreigner, or it can be translated as nation. The problem with rendering it as a country is that, as a nation, Yisrael has been anything but diligent in its desire to understand Yahowah's testimony. Yisraelites have collectively run from it. Further, gawi, especially in the plural as gawim, is used throughout the Torah and maybe as the antithesis of what Yahowah intended for Yisrael. Moreover, prior to this gawi composing Yada Yahowah, there had not been a single Yahud, much less a nation of them, who had come to Yada Yah. The declaration being shared with us is best understood when we realize that byn was scribed in the nifl stem and participle form, as well as in the masculine singular absolute. This indicates that a lone gawi has actively and demonstrably personified what it means to understand. In his quest to Yada to know, he would impart understanding to those seeking to Yada Yahowah. And while he may remain uncomfortable being acknowledged, there is little doubt that he has been gadol vociferous and intense and that his preferred method of instruction is through gadol amplification, magnifying the meaning of each word by expressing its full connotations through many. Recognizing that gawi gadol is typically translated as great nation, there are challenges with this rendering. First, Hebrew has 25 words for great, many of which are better suited to describe the children of Yisrael. Gadol is most accurately rendered, loud, intense, 27 amplified, magnified, vociferous, valuable, dignified, significant, important, distinguished, verbose, and numerous. It is derived from gadol, which speaks of growing, being magnified, and amplified so as to achieve something meritorious. Those gathered before Moseh on this day were not great in magnitude, power, influence, age, importance, voice, dignity, wealth, or possessions, neither economically, politically, religiously, or militarily, especially when compared to the nations surrounding them. At this point, they were homeless refugees. Second, Yisrael was never a great nation. They were a collection of tribes prior to entering Mitzrayim. They came out as evacuees. After 40 years of stumbling in the wilderness, these migrants would not become a nation until they were unified under David. But it wouldn't last since the kingdom split apart after Solomon, his son, and was never reunited. And even during that brief time, there were internal insurrections, one led by Daud's own son, Absalom. What was left of Yisrael would be destroyed by the Assyrians, with the people hauled away and into slavery. Yehudah would be conquered by the Egyptians and destroyed by the Babylonians. It was subsequently controlled by the Greeks, until suffering 3 successive waves of Roman invasions. The last under Hadrian was catastrophic. The languishing land would be claimed by the Byzantines and then the Muslims. Even today, now re-established, the tiny nation is defiled by religion, its own which is debilitating, and Islam which is deadly. Struggling to define itself between opposing secular and sectarian influences, Israel has been bereft of a constitution since 1948. And in the midst of being pummeled by Muslims, the United Nations, and progressives, Israel will not be a gadol and highly valued people until after King Daud's return, which is what this gawi is heralding. 28 inches Jeremiah 31, Yahowah speaks of reuniting Yisrael and Yehudah and then restoring his relationship with his people based upon the integration of the Torah in their lives. The father, accompanied by his son who is the ultimate Gibbor capable and courageous man, will make them gadol in the extreme. And getting from where they are, wallowing in religious rebellion, to where God can reconcile his relationship with them, is the point of this prophecy. For, ky, indeed by contrast, emphasizing this point, when has there been, ask yourself who, when, how, what, or why has there been, a gawi Gentile, gawi, a man of a different ethnicity from a different place or a nation, this significant, or at least this vociferous and intense, using amplification, gadol, this devoted to contributing something valuable through magnification while encouraging growth through amplification, achieving something important on behalf of many people using a great many words, for the benefit of the relationship, asher, to show the proper path to walk to get the greatest joy out of life, such that he has, lahu, God, Elohim, approaching him while forming a close relationship and imminent connection at this distant point in time, karob elhu, forthcoming regarding him, near him, and closely affiliated, allied, and associated with him, consistent with how, ka, similar to and like, Yahowah, as directed in his Torah. Teaching regarding his Haya, existence, our God, Elohim Panaknu, is with us whenever we call upon him, Ba Kol Kara Panaknu, Elhu, is with us anytime we invite and summon him, calling out to him. Dabram/word/ Deuteronomy 4 verse 7. It is the question I have asked time and again. Has there ever been someone, is there anyone, another gawi, whom Yahowah has approached in this manner? Is there another Gentile this vocal about and devoted to the Torah 29 Yahowah conveyed through Moseh? Has anyone else composed translations based on amplification? Has there been anyone as affected by Asher the revelation of the benefits of the relationship as this gawi? Is there another Gentile that Yahowah has so demonstratively and prophetically karob approached for this purpose and at this time who has been this passionate and vocal, even profuse in his writing? The possibility of sweeping this away by rendering gawi as nation is torn asunder by the conclusion of the statement. There, a comparison is being made revealing the potential similarity between the way Yahowah approached this individual, forming a relationship with him, and the manner he will respond to his people when they finally call out to him, inviting and welcoming God back into their lives. Even Kara is telling, because it suggests that this reunification will occur during a Mikra, indeed during Kippurim reconciliations. In this way, Yahowah is consistent. Speaking of this individual and the nation that emerges as a result, Moseh continued to elaborate using the previous introduction. So, what's more, when has there been, ask yourself who, what, where, or why has there been, a gawi Gentile, gawi, a man of a different ethnicity from a different place or a nation, this vocal and intensely devoted to using amplification, gadol, this committed to contributing something valuable through magnification while encouraging growth, achieving something important on behalf of many people using a great many words, for the benefit of the relationship, asher, to show the proper path to walk to get the greatest joy out of life, such that he, Lahu, clearly communicates the inscribed prescriptions for living, chalk, thoughtfully conveying the requirements which have been appointed and engraved to cut us into the relationship, which have been etched into 30 stone and delineated to allocate a share of what has been allotted to those with the resolve to act upon that which has been prescribed, from Chakak. To cut out, inscribe, engrave, mark out, and portray something whereby the proper response is required to receive a share of the allotment. Along with the way to execute good judgment regarding the means to correctly resolve disputes, mishpat, in addition to the way to make the right decision about what is good and bad, right and wrong so that you can correctly assess what is true and false, deciding upon that which is beneficial while avoiding that which is counterproductive, from to contemplate the implications of Shabat, making good decisions by being judgmental, discerning, and discriminating, consistently and correctly conveying everything that is part of Sadik Ka Kol, accurately, constantly, and verifiably standing up for all of this to promote vindication through this Torah, HaTorah HaZoth, this singular and unique source of teaching and guidance, instructions and directions, which, to identify the right way to the benefits of the relationship, Asher, I have provided, giving it to you in your presence. Anaki Nathan Lapana Adam, I have bestowed before you, Cal participle, this day. Hayam. At this time. Dabram/words/Deuteronomy 4 verse 8. It is sad, but true, Yahowah had to search beyond Yisrael to find someone sufficiently Gadol vocal about and devoted to the Asher relationship he intended, to Gadol amplify and magnify his chalk inscribed prescriptions for living, and especially his mishpat means to exercise good judgment, especially regarding the means to resolve disputes so that his people might be right. He was afforded no choice in this matter because Yisrael has made a religion out of incorrectly presenting Yahowah's Torah, to the extent that the religious have substituted and superimposed their own agenda, referring to their Talmud as the Torah. Then comes Paul, the worst of them, 31, and he went about annulling the Torah for his gospel of grace. Without exception, exclusively without reservation, you should choose to be observant, shamar la ada, you should pay attention, closely examine and carefully consider everything, nifal imperative, of your own volition, benefit by being observant. Pay especially close attention to, shamar, very carefully consider, cal imperative, choose to genuinely focus upon, your soul, nipesh ada, your individual consciousness, your capacity to be observant and responsive, being exceedingly diligent, miodi, to the greatest extent possible, being especially contemplative, lest you forget, pen shaka, or you may overlook, ignore, and no longer be mindful of, ceasing to care about, the words, eth ha dabrim, the written statements and spoken testimony, which, for the benefit of the relationship, Asher, to show the correct way to get the most out of life, you have seen with your eyes, ein ada, you have been shown and witnessed, having had it revealed in plain sight. Otherwise, wapen, they will not be part of your considerations or inclinations, sur min lebab ada, they will be removed from your heart and rejected from your thinking, cal imperfect. All of the days of your life, kol yamim che, ada, for the entire duration you are alive, you shall make them known, yada, hem, you shall acknowledge, respect, and reveal them, acknowledging them to encourage understanding, hyphal perfect, to your children, laben, ada, and to your children's children, wala ben, ada. Dabram/words/Deuteronomy 4 verse 9. And now, you are being reminded of them and hearing them again, for the first time in 3,500 years. The day you were present, standing, Yaum, Asher 32, Amad, the time you were upright on your feet, before, Lapana, in the presence of and facing, Yahowah, your God, Yahowah Elohim Ada, in Choreb, Ba Choreb, Yahowah said to me, Ba, Amar Yahowah El Eni, summon and assemble, Kahal, gather by calling together, hyphal imperative, unto me, La Eni, to approach me, the family, La M, the people, so that they can hear, Washama Hem, so that they may listen to, hyphal imperfect, my words, F dabber any, to my message, which, for the benefit of the relationship, Asher, to show the way to get the most out of life, they may learn, Lamed, they will be taught and subsequently teach, cal imperfect pedagogic none, to respect me, Yair F any, to admire and value that which is associated with me, all of the days, Kol hayamim, which, as a result of enjoying the relationship, Asher, they shall live. Hem chaim, they are alive, on the earth, al ha adama. Upon the ground and soil, and within the material realm. And so that they will continually teach, Walamed, they will consistently share this information with and educate, Peel imperfect, their offspring will learn from them with unfolding benefits over time, their children, Eth Beni Hem. Dabram words/Deuteronomy 4 verse 10. As I have mentioned, the covenant is the heart and soul of the Torah. Announcing it in your presence, he told you all about and explained, Wanagadla Adam Heth, he conspicuously informed and openly reported to all of you regarding, hyphal imperfect, his family-oriented covenant relationship, Berith who, his mutually beneficial partnership agreement based upon building a Baith family and home. Which, to show the correct way to receive the benefits of the relationship and to get the most out of life, Asher, he instructed and directed, appointing and constituting the prescribed terms and instructive 33 conditions, Saw, he told you about, providing directions and establishing signs, thereby defining the decreed agreement, the 10 statements and enriching words, Asareth Hadabrim, the empowering message, for you to engage in and act upon, Eth Adam La Asah, for you to capitalize upon and benefit from by expending the energy to accomplish, cal infinitive. And he wrote them, Wakathabhem, so he inscribed and engraved them in writing, recording them, on 2 tablets, al-Shanaim Loich, upon 2 panels with a permanent inscription, of stone, Eben. Dabram/words/Deuteronomy 4 verse 13. and Yahowah, the pronunciation of Yahowah, instructed and guided, directed and prescribed the terms and conditions, providing directions to define the agreement for me at this time, me in this context, place, and moment, so that she, speaking of the set-apart spirit, our spiritual mother and heavenly counselor, would teach, would provide the required information to instruct and guide you, Adam, regarding the clearly communicated prescriptions which cut you into the relationship, the engraved thoughts and inscribed recommendations, and the means used to achieve justice and resolve disputes, mishpat, along with the basis to exercise good judgment and make sound, rational, decisions, so that you can act upon them and profit from them, asah, Adam, so that you can engage and capitalize from the effort you put into them. Cal infinitive. Deuteronomy 4 verse 14. There was never a man God, a baby God, or a dead God on a stick. Therefore, be especially focused, carefully considering, shamar maodi, the nature of your soul, nipesh Adam. For this reason, you did not see, lo aria, any 34 physical form, kol tamuna, during the day, Yahowah spoke the word, Yahowah daber, to you at Choreb, Adam Choreb, from the midst of the fire, min tak ha-esh. Dabarim 4:15. Otherwise, had it not been that way, you may have misinterpreted it and subsequently been perverted and destroyed, shakath, by fashioning for yourselves, asah Adam, an object of worship, pesel, in some form or semblance, tamuna kol semel, patterned after, tabnith, the memorable proclamations of a man, especially someone perceived to be a son, zakar, or one who has been pierced, nakiba, who becomes notable based upon being denounced and nailed. Dabarim 4:16. Otherwise, you would consistently lift up your eyes, nasa, ein, ada, to the heavens, hashemayim, and when you saw, the sun, the moon, and the stars, hashemesh yerik kaukab, as well as all of the vast array of implements of the spiritual realm, kol hatsaba, shemayim, then you would have been enticed and led astray, nadak, by making pronouncements for them and honoring them, chawalahem, even serving and worshipping them, abadhem, while Asher, Yahowah, your God, Yahowah Elohim Ada, apportion them, Chalak Ethem, to all people, Lakol Ha-Am, under the heavens, Takhath Kol Shemaim. Dabarim 4:19. One would think that a deal this good would be hard to forget. Nonetheless, with their eyes and minds scrutinizing religious texts rather than the Torah, Jews have forgotten all about the covenant. Choose to be observant, shamar, lest you ignore, even forget, Adam pen shaka, about the covenant, berith, of Yahowah, your God, Yahowah Elohim 35 Adam, which, to show the way to get the most out of life, Asher, he cut, establishing with you, im, Adam, and fashion for yourself, asah Adam, a religious icon, pesel, in the form, tamuna, of anything which, kol, Asher, Yahowah, your God, Yahowah Elohim Adam, has discussed with you, Adam. Dabarim 4:23. Imagine what it must be like to be God and to have offered such a favorable arrangement to people who arrogantly threw it back in his face. The Israelites he had liberated and enriched would honor the men who would destroy their relationship. Such is the enigma of Judaism and Christianity. Indeed, Yahowah, your God, Yahowah Elohim Ada, he is a jealous God with a desire for exclusivity in the relationship and gets angry when cheated upon, who Elkanah, becoming a consuming fire, Akel. Dabarim 4:24. Therefore, when, you conceive children, Yalad ben, and your children have children, ben, and you become sedentary, set in your ways, and less perceptive, yashin, in the land, ha-eretz, and subject to perversions and corruptions, shakath, by acting on behalf of, asah, religious imagery in any form, pesel tamuna kol, by pursuing that which is inappropriate and wrong, asah ha'arei, in the sight of Yahowah, ein Yahowah, your God, Elohim Ada, so as to annoy and provoke him, who, Dabarim 4:25, I will be called to testify against you, Yud Adam, that day, ha-yaum, in concert with the spiritual and material realms, ha-shemaim ha-eretz. As a result, of wandering away and quickly squandering the opportunity, you will cease to exist, abad mahar. You will not live very long, 36 barak yaum, al-hai, and will be overthrown and decimated, shamad. Dabarim 4:26. Then, Yahowah, will scatter you, Putz Adam, among the peoples, ha-amim, and you will be left as a remnant, Washayar, of individuals, Moth, measured against the Gentiles, Misfar ha-Gawam, which is where, Asher Sham, Yahowah, will drive you, Nahag Adam. Dabarim 4:27. What's more, there, Sham, you will serve, becoming indentured to, and even worship, Abad, gods, Elohim, the products, Moseh, of human influence, Yad, Adam, wood and stone, ets Eben, which are not observant or perceptive, Asher lo, Area, nor can they listen, lo, Shama, neither can they eat nor devour, lo, Akel, as they are unable to accept or draw close because they are not spirit, lo, Ruach/Ryak. Dabarim 4:28. Love should be jealous. No one in their right mind wants to share their husband or wife, even their parents and children, with those who would treat them inappropriately. Love wants to be loved in return. Yahowah did not create humankind for us to conjure up and then worship a cadre of false gods. He wanted to enjoy a personal, familial, relationship with us. False gods are not part of that picture. Righteous indignation is always appropriate when directed toward abusive behavior. God gets mad when we abuse the relationship and our children by squandering the opportunity he has so lovingly provided. And it has been as Yahowah foretold, Yisraelites have been scattered, leaving only a remnant, comparatively few souls when measured against the billions of Gawam Gentiles. 15 million Jews, should 37 there be that many, is 2 for every 1,000 Gentiles. The Jews in the diaspora would be responsible for creating the false gods they would then have to serve to survive. Jews by the tens of millions then converted to Christianity and Islam to avoid torture and decapitation. Like so many others, the chosen people chose to pursue gods of man's making. They have worshipped objects that can neither listen nor see them, approach or accept them. Continuing to speak of the future, not the present, God indicated that the distant descendants of those listening to his booming voice emerging from the fire on this day would lose sight of him. So, he lets us know that even in the midst of such ignorance and arrogance of our day, there is hope. And yet, even from there, Wamin Sham, then within that place and time, by paying attention to the name, should you inquire about and seek, Bakash, should you extend the great effort required to accomplish the intent of your discovery, you will learn what you need to know through a thorough investigation while seeking to procure the information needed to hold everyone to account, and some responsible for what they have conspired to achieve while rebelling against the relationship, Peel. Perfect. At that moment in time, the object, Yah, is put into action by the subject, the seeker, Yahowah, written as directed by his Torah, teaching, your God, Elohim, Ada, you will find him if you search, Wamatza, Ky, Darashu, then you will discover enough through exploration to meet him should you be consistent and enduring with your inquiry, caring sufficiently about developing a relationship with him, Kal imperfect energic none. With all your heart, your motivations in harmony with your thinking. Ba kol lebab ada, with your best judgment and total 38 commitment, deploying comprehensive analysis while displaying complete resolve, and with all your soul, your innate ability to be observant and responsive, wa ba kol nipesh ada, with the entirety of your inner nature, your personality and character, your attitude and aptitudes, your accomplishments and experiences. Dabrim/word/Deuteronomy 4 verse 29. God made it possible, not easy. If you want to know him, you will find him, so long as you are diligent and search in the right place. And the time is nigh, for we have entered the time of Yaakov Zar Israel's troubles. When you find yourself, Wamatza, Ada, when it comes upon you that, Kal perfect, besieged by adversaries, with distressful oppression and troubling confinement upon you, Ba Hazar La Ada, approaching the period of dire straits, of turmoil and tribulation, of harassment and anguish, of you being restricted and demeaned, of affliction and distress, and of you being restrained and impeded, during the last days, Ba Akrith Hayaumim, in the distant future when only a remnant remains to experience the final period of time. Every one of these words in this particular message, Kol Ha-Dabrim Ha-El-La, this entire account, every word of it, will enable you to return and be restored, Washub, to turn around and come back, Kal perfect, by the eternal witness, Ad, the restoring testimony, of Yahowah, your God, Yehovah Elohim Ada, and by listening to his voice, Washama, Ba Kaulhu. Dabrim/word/Deuteronomy 4 verse 30. Indeed, Ky, Almighty God, El, is compassionate and merciful, Racham, loving, affectionate, and kind. Yahowah, a transliteration of Yehovah has instructed in his Torah, teaching regarding his Haya, existence, your God, Elohim Ada, will not abandon you, Rapha Ada, will not allow you to become so powerless and feeble, so disheartened, that you falter to the 39 point that you can no longer respond having lost hope, Hyphal imperfect Joseph, nor will he allow you to be destroyed, Wallo, Shaketh Ada, nor will he allow you to be corrupted such that you become completely useless. Hyphal imperfect, note, Ada, you and your is singular, not plural, in each instance. Moreover, he will not ignore, overlook, or forget, Shakach, he will remain mindful of, always remembering and caring about, Kal imperfect, the covenant, Berith, that which is associated with the family-oriented relationship agreement, with your fathers, of Ada, which he promised to them for the benefit of the relationship, Asher Shaba, Lahem, which, to show the way to get the most out of life, he swore a binding oath to them. Dabrim/Deuteronomy 4 verse 31. This will occur in stages, with the first covenant members to enjoy Yahowah's loving embrace being withdrawn on Sha'uwl, the Shabat of May 22, 2026 as Israel is broken into pieces. Next, during a solar eclipse, on the Shabat of September 25, 2033/year 6000 Yah, a final gleaning of Yehudim will occur. 10 days later, on Yom Kippurim the day of reconciliations in the 120th Yabel year, at sunset in Yerushalayim, 6:22 p.m., October 2, 2033, father and son will return to a united Yisrael. Should you not be part of the covenant at this time, should you foolishly decide to wait until the last minute, and should you be among the remnant who survive the ensuing onslaught, this is how much time you have left to reject religion and politics and resolve your relationship with the Almighty. But be aware, while Jews will fare better than the rest of humanity, 2 of every 3 will be killed between now and then. The switch from Adam you all to Ada just you was designed to get your undivided attention. 40 inches a history littered with human abuses, nothing will match what the world is about to endure. Grotesque acts of terrorism and bloody wars will become more frequent, severe, widespread, and ghoulish. There will be debilitating pandemics and great depressions. And there will be all manner of natural disasters from volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, tornadoes, firestorms, floods, drought, and even an asteroid strike. At the center of it all will be Israel because the religious, political, and conspiratorial will continue to blame Jews for everything. With billions of voices droning on incessantly, complaining about and promoting all manner of ridiculousness, and with devastating news burning up the airwaves, one declaration, bold and perhaps verbose, will stand apart by the relevance of the timing and importance of the message, by the sheer volume of words and the intensity of which they are delivered. So now, KY, for the purposes of evaluation, please, I implore you, question and inquire about, the comparison to, Sha'uwl, choose to ask, pondering the implications of, Kal imperative, that which came to exist before you, Asher Hayal Apana Ada, during the first and former days, La Yamam Rishon, from the day God created, La Min Hayam, Asher Bara Elohim, Adam upon the earth, Adam al-Ha, Eretz, to being isolated from, Wa La Min Katza, the spiritual realm, Hashemayim. Including the extent of the eternal witness of heaven, Wa ad Katza Hashemayim, has anything occurred which can be compared to, Ha-Hayakah, the significance of the amplified words and important message, Ha-Daber Ha-Gadol, the great number and extent of the many statements or astonishing insights, even the intense nature of the declarations, or vociferous, even verbose, commentary, such as this, Ha-Zeh. Will you choose, Auha, given the option, will you want, to listen to, Ha-Shama, to hear and take into 41 account, Nifel perfect, by listening you will actually benefit from what you will be hearing at this moment in time, someone like this, Kamohu, the likes of him or him. Dabrim/word/Deuteronomy 4 verse 32. This is the missing ingredient between the promise Yahowah made to reconcile his relationship and restore the covenant with Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov and his fulfillment of it on Yom Kippurim, now, in the summer of 2024, just 9 years removed from this assessment. In that there were no Yisraelites, not a single Yahud, willing to listen to Yahowah or work with him to deliver this message, without the Gawis amplified translations and vociferous commentary, no one would have shown up to capitalize. With no one since Malachi, the last of the messengers 2,472 years ago, being available to Yahowah to call his people home, with rabbis calling them in the opposite direction, and with so many others poised to denigrate them and deny them, even kill them, what would have changed without these Ha-Daber Ha-Gadol to go from none to many? Beginning with the 25th statement of the 4th chapter, Yahowah's focus has been on future generations. Therefore, based upon the preceding statements in Dabrim, it is only natural to see this as an extension of God's exposé on the last days. Also relevant, this Ha-Daber Ha-Gadol is based entirely upon conveying the words Yahowah revealed to the children of Yisrael through Moseh, such that one is a translation of the other. From then to now, God communicates in the manner he sees fit. Did a people ever hear, Ha-Shama am, the voice of God, Kal Elohim, speaking words, Daber, communicating a message, from the midst of the fire, Min Ta Ka-Esh, in the manner you have heard, Ka Asher Shama Ada, and live, Wachayal. Dabrim 4:24:33, or, to make a comparison, has God ever attempted, Ha-Neza Elohim, has the Almighty ever tried, exerting himself, Nifel Peel perfect, to come to and select, even choose and obtain, La Bao La La catch, to pursue and grasp hold of, then receive, accepting, Kal infinitive, for himself, Lahu, a Gawi, an individual man from a different race and place or a nation, from the midst, Min Kerub, of a nation of Gentiles, Gawi, a Gentile people, of a confluence of races. By getting the correct response, B.A. Masa, by assessing and proving through examination and systematically trying and testing, by agreeing to produce a sign and raise a banner, B.A. Oath. By displaying a standard and designating a signal while providing illustrative accounts, vivid illustrations, and clarifying examples which make the message more readily known and easier to evaluate. And by conspicuously presenting inspiring revelations of extraordinary past and future events, B.A. Mofeth, through insightful responses, exceptional conclusions, and relevant warnings, all posted as exposed signs replete with symbolic meaning, from Yafa, to be brilliant, attractive, and fair, even by continuously battling, B.A. Milchama, by being combative, sometimes defending and at others times attacking, always engaging, from I, to ponder the implications of Lakham, engaging. In the battle and fighting to survive, with a powerful hand and capable influence, B.A. Yechazak, with a bold and courageous approach and fortified arm, with an outstretched Zeroah, one who sows the seeds which take root and grow for the harvest and who shepherds the flock, B.A. Zeroah, Neda. By extending the capable arm, reaching out with one who prevails and is effective, showing the resolve to guide, to productively prepare for the harvest, to defend the offspring, serving as a shepherd among the sheep, fruitful in accomplishing the mission, especially when sowing the seeds of truth while denoting and advancing the purpose of the influence of the 43 sacrificial lamb, along with the awesome nature of the astonishing insights and respectful commentary, B.A. Mora, Gadol, the significance of the inspiration and important message, even tremendous reverence, consistent with all of what, Ka Kol Asher, Yahowah, Yahowah, an accurate presentation of the name of Eloah, God as guided by his Torah, instructions regarding his Haya, existence. Your God, Elohim Ada, did for you, asah Adam, in the crucibles of religious and political oppression, B.A. Mitzrayim, within the cauldrons of governmental, military, economic, and conspiratorial coercion and cruelty, where the people are confined, restricted, and persecuted, plural of Matzor, to be treated as a foe and besieged during a time of testing and tribulation, from Sur, to be bound and constrained by an adversary, besieged and assaulted during times of trouble. For your perspective, La, Ein, Ada, to provide a witness for your eyes to see and your mind to understand. Dabrim 4:34. This was shown to you, Ada this witness was provided for you to consider it and be perceptive, hopeful perfect. God has had to strong arm you at this time to see it this way, so that you might know, La Yada, for you to be aware, acknowledge, and understand, Kal infinitive, literally and vividly comprehend, that Yahowah, a transliteration of Yahowah as instructed in his Torah, teaching regarding his Haya, existence, himself, is Almighty God, who, Ha Elohim. There is no other, Ein Aud, apart from him, Min Labadhu. Dabrim/word/Deuteronomy 4 verse 35. In all of recorded history, this is the one and only time that God spoke openly and audibly to a large assemblage of people. He approached them as blazing light, visibly conveying his spiritual nature. As for what follows, I think Yahowah is using his favorite example, that of removing his people from 44 religious and political tyranny, as the paradigm of what he intends to accomplish today through his chosen and enabled Gawi. Since the full extent of religious and political oppression has never been greater, similar strategies will be deployed. Just as Yahowah chose to approach Abraham and then obtain his offspring for himself, God found a Gawi in the midst of a Gentile nation from whom he could get the response he desired. And that was to agree to work together, to go where the words would lead and then share them with all who would listen. After assessing and systematically evaluating his words, this unnamed Gawi agreed to produce the sign Yahowah would use to call his wayward children home. It would be replete with illustrative accounts, vivid illustrations, and clarifying examples, all written to make his message more readily known and more easily understood. God's inspiring revelations chronicling his most extraordinary past and future achievements would be conspicuously presented along with the exceptional conclusions and relevant warnings that can be drawn from them. The Gawi would be used to shine a brilliant light upon Yahowah's favorite symbols. Together they would battle religious, political, and conspiratorial foes, defending God's people while attacking those who would do them harm. Indeed, this Gawi would be a Zoroah, joining the other two, Moseh and Daud, serving with an empowered hand and enabling influence to sow the seeds the prophets had offered to enable the harvests and family reunion. He would act as a caretaker in the absence of the rightful shepherd. Working together, the three Zoroah would perceive and share astonishing insights into the Word of God and combine them with respectful commentary, underscoring 45 the message Yahowah needs his people to hear. Time is fleeting and they must leave a mitzrayim of their own making, fleeing the religious, political, militant, and conspiratorial schemes of men. God has done it all and said it all so that we might obtain the proper perspective, so that our view of him is no longer occluded. You have been shown these words so that you might know that Yahowah alone is Almighty God. I find the realization that Yahowah inspired Moseh to say these things on behalf of his people gut-wrenching. It reveals that in spite of doing so many wonderful things for Yisrael that the people have come to ignore and reject him. They revere religious liars and political fools over God and have replaced Yahowah's testimony with their drivel. 22 years ago, a scant 3 decades from his return, there wasn't a single Yahud in the covenant. And while now there are hundreds, if not thousands. There will be a Shabuah harvest, a Teruah gleaning, and Kippurim reunion, just as Yahowah has promised. But there is much to be accomplished and the workers are few. There is only one lone voice calling out in the wilderness to prepare the way for Yahowah's return. But we no longer have the luxury of time, so we cannot hesitate or equivocate. Yahowah has been too good to us to risk disappointing him. So thankfully, he has offered every available resource to garner Yisrael's attention. From Moseh to Daud and on to Yashia, God has told his people where to look to find him. So, I am nothing more than the guy jumping up and down, writing my fingers numb, screaming at the top of my voice, listen to them and come home. At this point in the conversation, we retain the option of discounting Moses' speech, and of limiting the implications of it to those who were listening to him 3,446 years ago. In which case it was squandered and the prophecy was left unfulfilled. However, there would have been no reason under such circumstances to refer to Moseh as a nabi, prophet, much less the greatest of them, if not addressing the future. And since we have heard Yahowah speak of the last days when he will restore his covenant with his people, we know that God was speaking to us, here and now on the cusp of his return. Therefore, the most sensible approach is to recognize that Yahowah likes to use tangible illustrations of his past performance to teach future generations that we can rely upon him to do as he has done. When we come to appreciate why God removed his people from Mitzrayim, the crucibles of religious and political oppression, we come to understand the lone prerequisite for admission into the covenant, which is to walk away from these human control mechanisms. In this regard, there are 2 yatzah withdrawals, or exoduses, with the former serving as a harbinger of the removal of God's people from political, religious, and geographic Babylon today. From this perspective, his every word is as applicable to the distant descendants of those refugees as it is to those listening on this day. Moreover, since there would have been no benefit in recording these words on behalf of those who had heard them, they were written for us. From the heavens, min ha-shemaim, out of the spiritual abode of God, he has prepared you to hear, shama ada, he has enabled you to use your sense of hearing to listen to, hyphal perfect, God has caused you to be able to listen at this moment to, his voice, kawlhu, so that he might correct and instruct you, la yasar ada, so that he could teach and warn you, imparting information to you about future opportunities 47 and dangers as well as their consequences, peel infinitive. Energic none. And upon the earth, wa al ha-beretz, within the material realm, he made it possible for you to see, Araya Ada, he has enabled you to witness and perceive, hyphal perfect, the significance of the magnifying nature and overall importance of, Hagadol, the magnitude and full extent of the many astonishing insights which can be drawn from even the intensity of, that which is associated with his fiery light, Eshu, his blazing fire and radiant energy, and of his words, Wadaber. Who, in addition to his message and statements, which you can hear, Shama, you can actually and genuinely listen to at this moment, Kal perfect, coming out of the midst of the fire, Min Tok Ha-Esh, from the brilliant light and expression of radiant energy. Dabram words / Deuteronomy 4 verse 36. Listen to Yahowah's voice by reading his words aloud, and he will correct you and teach you. Open your mind while doing so, and you will see just how brilliant he is. Also, never lose sight of how vastly superior Yahowah is to the gods men have made. Yisrael's last opportunity to come home has been offered, not because of their merit, but because God made a promise long ago. And even though Abraham was an exceedingly flawed fellow, neither intellectually gifted nor particularly moral, Yahowah loved him, which means that he has the ability and desire to overlook our flaws when we respond to him. And beneath this, Watakath, so underneath and underpinning this, is the realization that, he loved Ahab, he cultivated a friendly and affectionate, family-oriented relationship, Kal perfect, your fathers, Abai Ada. And he has chosen to favor, Wabahar, he has selected and has preferred, desiring, their descendants, Ba 48 Zerah, who, within their seed and of their offspring, after them, Achar who, next, following them, without hesitation and remaining with them, right to the end. So, he extended himself to withdraw you, Yatsa Ada, he served you by removing you and bringing you out, Hyphal imperfect, God is the active and ongoing force behind your removal such that you are withdrawn and can remain free, into his presence, Ba Panahu, with his appearance and within his company, from the religious and political oppressors, Min Mitzrayim, away from the despots and tyrants within the cauldrons of military and economic subjugation, away from the authority. Figures in the place of coercive cruelty where slaves are confined and restricted by political persecution, considered foes, besieged, and assaulted as if shut up inside a concentration camp, with his magnifying power, astonishing insights, and distinguishing achievements, Ba Kochu, Hagado, his keen intellect and great ability, along with the extent and energy of his prowess. Dabram 437. Christianity is invalidated with statements like this one because God is continually acknowledging that he has not and never will replace Jews with Gentiles or Yisrael with the church. And without replacement philology, all of Yahuwah's promises remain focused upon the firstborn son and chosen people, leaving no possibility of replacing him or them without God, himself, being invalidated. To properly translate Mitzrayim crucible, we must be aware that it is the plural, ym suffix, of matzor, to be delineated as a foe and besieged during a troublesome time of testing and tribulation. Matzor is a compound of my, the interrogative which encourages us to question the who, what, why, where, when, and how of something, and sor, to be bound and confined by a troubling adversary, besieged, assaulted, shut up, and enclosed as if in a concentration camp by those showing great hostility. This 49 is where we find ourselves, today. The human schemes capable of inflicting such abuse and aggravation, persecution, confinement, and oppression are religious and political. And that is why I routinely render Mitzrayim as the crucibles of religious and political oppression. To render it as Egypt is senseless since that name is based upon a Greek misnomer, and the nation refers to itself as Mitzrah. Just as Yahuwah extended himself to withdraw the children of Yisrael out of Mitzrayim, he will help you leave Babylon. In this regard, Babylon is from Babel, which means, to confound and confuse by commingling and intermixing. Nothing is better at this than religion, which is why we should not be surprised that Babel shares the same three-letter root as Bible and means, Babel, with the Lord. Yahuwah drew his people out of Mitzrayim with a strong and forceful hand, which is to say that he did not give them any choice in the matter. Having been exiled and enslaved for 20 generations, they did not know enough about God to make an informed decision, something that Yahuwah quickly rectified by providing his Torah teaching. Today, however, Yisraelites are without excuse. Yahuwah's Torah guidance is readily available, albeit inaccurately translated and inappropriately presented. And that is why Yahuwah has intervened by empowering a hand of a different sort, this one striking the keys of a keyboard. Further, this time, and for you, the offer to walk away is being presented entirely through words. The plagues will be of man's doing, not God's. As a result, your journey away from religion and politics, today's Babylon, to life within the covenant, will come, Ba Kochu, Hagado, through the magnifying power and astonishing insights into his distinguishing achievements and intellect. Therefore, the 50 best advice is to Yada Yahowah. Therefore, at this moment in time, you should actually acknowledge because you genuinely know, Yada, you should be familiar with, be aware of, literally care about, and unequivocally understand, Cal perfect, this day, Hayam, today, right now, that you should return, Washub, that you should come back and be restored, Hyphal perfect, such that you are using your best judgment, El Lebab Ada, motivated and inclined to respond appropriately, using your conscience to make the correct decision, in the recognition that, indeed, KY, because surely, Yahowah, as directed in his Torah, teaching regarding his Haya, existence, is Almighty God, Elohim, in the spiritual realm of the heavens, Ba Hashemayim, above and beyond and in additional dimensions, Min Ma'al, and upon the earth, Eretz, over the material realm, in lesser dimensions, Min Takath. There is no other to bear witness, who can respond or restore, Ein Aud. Dabram 439. There is a tendency to read Hebrew with an English mindset. Those who do are likely to render Leb and Lebab as heart and then associate an emotional response. But at that time and among Hebrews, the heart was the seat of judgment, not emotions. The idea of taking something to Leb was like saying, think about it and respond rationally and morally, using your best judgment. If someone were seeking an emotional response, they would have spoken of the liver. For the past 23 years, my only goal in life has been to encourage all who will listen to Yada Yahowah. These books have been published in honor of that objective. Just as Yahuwah has only one name, he alone is God. There is no other who can respond, restore, or bear witness. If you want proof, consider the Talmud, Quran, Christian 51 New Testament, or Book of Mormon and compare such rubbish to what we are reading. And after holding your nose and doing so, ask yourself if anyone can name a single instance where the God's men conceived actually accomplished anything. Although the most famous of them have death in common. The Christian God got himself killed and the Islamic God would have everyone die. As we proceed, you will find Yahuwah's style consistent and reassuring. He will continually reinforce what he wants us to know, recognizing that repetition is the best method of filing something important in our long-term memory. You should observe, shamar, you should closely examine and carefully consider, open your eyes and focus upon, his clearly communicated, inscribed prescriptions of what we should do to be cut into the relationship, chaku, his engraved thoughts and recommendations on living to be allocated a share of the inheritance, in addition to the instructive conditions of his binding agreement, mitzwahu, his authorized directions and written instructions, including the designated precepts. Stipulations and terms, which, to enjoy the benefits of the relationship, asher, which reveal the proper path to walk to get the most enjoyment out of life, I have instructed and directed you, anakit saw, ada, I have guided you, posting on a sign for you, appointing and stipulating, this day, ha-yahum. Then, as a result of the relationship, asher, he will be good to you and accepting of you, yada blah ada, he will favor you and be of benefit to you, kalin perfect, and also of your children, wala beni ada, after you, achar ada, remaining so to the end, and, wa, for the express purpose, laman, of elongating your days, barak yaman, prolonging your time, upon the earth, al-ha-adama, which, to show the way to get the most out of life, asher, Yahowah, Yahowah, the proper. 52 Pronunciation of Yahowah our Eloah, God as directed in his Towrah teaching regarding his Haya existence and our Shalom WM, restoration, your God, Elohim Ada, is giving to you, Nathan La Ada, is bestowing to you as a gift, producing and placing before you, Kal participle, for all time, Kol Hayamim. Dabram 440. It ought not take a genius to figure out that there weren't two Torahs at the time, one in writing covering everything Yahowah and Moseh said to the people, and another, by mouth and undisclosed. Moseh is asking Yisrael to observe the chak and mitzvah communicated through him, not something said to others on another day. Throughout an introduction to God, Yada Yahowah, observations, and coming home, and now Twistianity, we are consistently reminded of four things: what Yahowah is offering, what God expects in return, what he reveals is beneficial, and what he perceives as counterproductive. It is to our benefit, and that of our children, to focus on his prescriptions and instructions. The lives of those who do are prolonged into perpetuity, and they are afforded the opportunity to reside in the promised land. The Torah affirms that God is good for us. His goal is to make us happy and extend our lives. So, this is, YYV3, the Torah, ha-Torah, the instruction and teaching, the guidance and direction, which, to reveal the correct path to walk to receive the benefits of the relationship, asher, he placed before, simla pana, he appointed and conveyed in the presence of, he assigned, gave, preserved, and extended through the appearance of, kal perfect, literally providing at this time to, Moseh, the one who draws us out, and the children of Yisrael, Beni Yisrael, the offspring who strive to engage and endure with God. Dabram 444. 53 This is, el-leh, the enduring witness and restoring testimony, iduth, the written stipulations and requirements regarding the agreement, the evidence which is validated by the eyewitnesses, from, ed, eternal witness and restoring testimony, and yud, to return, renewed and revived to the one bearing witness, the clearly communicated prescriptions which were thoughtfully inscribed to allocate a share of the relationship, waha-chak, meaningful requirements which were appointed and engraved to cut us into the affiliation which have been etched into stone and delineated for those with the resolve to act upon that which has been prescribed, from chakak, to cut out, inscribe, engrave, mark out, and portray something whereby the proper response is required to receive a share of the allotment, along with the ways to execute good judgment regarding the means to correctly resolve disputes, waha-mishpat. In addition to the process to pursue to make correct decisions about what is good and bad, right and wrong, to correctly assess what is true and false, deciding upon that which is beneficial while avoiding that which is counterproductive, from to contemplate the implications of Shabat, making good decisions by being judgmental, discerning, and discriminating, which, for the benefit of the relationship, asher, Moseh, the one who draws us out, spoke to, daber el, communicated using words to, conveying and declaring the message on behalf of, the children of Yisrael, Beni Yisrael, the offspring who strive to engage and endure with God, when they came out of, ba yatsa, hem min, when they left, being removed and withdrawn from, the crucibles of religious and political oppression, Mitzrayim, the cauldrons of governmental, military, economic, and conspiratorial coercion and cruelty, where the people were confined, restricted, and persecuted, plural of Matzor, to be treated as a foe and besieged during a time of troubling testing and tribulation, from Tsur, to be bound and constrained by 54 an adversary, troubled and assaulted, as if in a concentration camp by those showing great hostility. Dabarim. /word/ Deuteronomy 4 verse 45. According to Yahowah, who ought to know, this is the Torah. It is clearly not the Talmud, nor is it the New Testament. All protestations otherwise are lies, a grotesque and arrogant perversion of the truth. There is only one Torah. This title is always presented in the singular, and it speaks for Yahowah. There are no rabbis mentioned within it. There is no endorsement of Judaism. There is no reference to Christianity or Jesus. Yahowah's Torah contains God's guidance and teaching. There are no laws to obey, no commandments either. Our Heavenly Father is soliciting the eyes and ears of those with an open mind. For the benefit of the covenant relationship, Yahowah's instructions were conveyed to Moseh, who preserved them in writing so that we might live. His audience was and remains the children of Yisrael. By using iduth, we learn that Yahowah's Torah contains his enduring witness and restoring testimony. It is comprised of iduth, the written stipulations and requirements regarding the agreement God established through his covenant. Unlike the Babylonian Talmud, the Torah provides evidence which is validated by the eyewitnesses. More telling still, iduth is a compound of ed, the eternal witness and restoring testimony pertaining to yud, how to return, be renewed and revived by the one bearing witness. What a marvelous description of Yahowah's guidance. We are reminded that Yahowah's Torah is not a compilation of laws but is instead, ha-chak, the clearly communicated prescriptions which were thoughtfully inscribed to allocate a share of the relationship. 55 Not only has Yahowah provided us with the evidence required to know him, his Torah guidance enables us to, ha-mishpat, execute good judgment regarding the means to correctly resolve disputes. This method of restoring our relationship with the Almighty is presented within this very same Torah. Yahowah refers to the process of reconciliation throughout the micro-EY invitations to be called out and meet. And as we have learned, mishpat is a compound of my, to contemplate the implications of something, and shapat, making good decisions by being judgmental, discerning, and discriminating. Once we walk away from our mitzrayim forms of religious, political, governmental, military, economic, and conspiratorial coercion, we are free to benefit from the covenant relationship. That is what Yahowah conveyed to Moseh. It is what we need to know today. And so now you know what Yahowah has to say about the enduring and restoring nature of his Torah, and that his focus is on his covenant. You have even seen a brief presentation of my credentials in this regard. And I might remind you that Paul has none. Unfortunately, the Israelites did the opposite, preferring men to God and religion to the relationship he was offering. Paul was not unique in this regard, just the most shrill and damning of deceivers. So then, Ada, this stipulation, ha-mitzvah ha-zoth, is directed toward you, Adam, the ones performing the religious rituals, ha-Kohen, Malachi 2:1, if, him, you do not listen, lo, shama, and if, him, you do not place it on your heart, considering it logically, sim, al-leb, to give, la Nathan, some significance and dignity, kabod, to my name, Lashem Eni, says, Amar, Yahowah, Yahowah of the spiritual representatives, Saba, then I will dispatch 56, Shalak, among you, Adam, a thoughtful curse which keeps you bound to your embittered existence, eth Hamayra. Thereafter, I will condemn, error, your pronouncements and your blessings, eth Baraka Adam. Moreover, gam, I will denounce them, error who, because, ky, you will not consider this matter responsibly, sim, al-leb. Malachi 2:2. Behold, Hina, look here now and see, I, myself, will rebuke and abhor, your offspring and that which you sow, Adam eth hazera, to such an extent, that I will spread, zara, the fecal matter, viscera, and dung, paresh, of your feasts and festivals, chag Adam, upon your faces, alpana. Then it will be taken away and you with it, wanasa, eth Adam, elhu, Malachi / my messenger / Malachi 2 verse 3. Should you prefer to read Yahowah's condemnation of rabbis and Judaism in context, the first 4 chapters of Malachi / Malachi are translated within the context of Yahowah's imminent return throughout the final chapter on Kippurim in the Mode Appointments volume of Yada Yahowah. And while that is a worthy endeavor, we are tasked with the mission of correcting 2,500 years of Yisrael being estranged, embedded, and wrong, and it is long past time that we remove the stench of their religious fecal matter, beginning with the dung of Christendom. As we proceed, we will compare the proclamations by the Messiah, the Son of God and King of Kings, scribed by Yahowah's beloved, his chosen shepherd and prophet, to the mutterings of the man who falsely claimed an affinity with the Almighty. Sha'uwl / Paulos commenced his 57 crusade against Yahowah and his Torah by writing these words, the first scribed in the name of the new religion. Paulos, an apostle, not of men, not even by the means of man, but to the contrary on behalf of Isu Christu and Theos, father of the one having awakened him out of a dead corpse, Galatians 1 verse 1, and all the brothers with me to the called out of the Galatians, Galatians 1 verse 2, grace to you and peace from Theos, father of us and Lord Isu Christu, Galatians 1 verse 3, the one having given himself on account of the sins of us so that somehow, he might gouge and tear out, uprooting us from the past circumstances of the old system which had been in place and is disadvantageous and harmful, corrupt and worthless, malicious and malignant according to the desire and will of Theos and Father of us, Galatians 1 verse 4, to whom the opinion regarding the glorious appearance of the shining light, a manifestation of Theos' reputation, by means of the old and the new systems, amen, let it be so. Galatians 1 verse 5. I am astonished, wondering in this way how quickly you changed, becoming disloyal apostates and traitors away from your calling in the name of charis grace to a dissimilar healing messenger, Galatians 1 verse 6, which does not exist differently, or conditionally negated, because some are stirring you up, confusing you, proposing to pervert the healing message of Christu, Galatians 1 verse 7, but to the contrary, if we or a messenger out of heaven conveys a beneficial messenger to you which is contrary to what we delivered as a good messenger to you, then a curse with a dreadful consequence exists. Galatians 1 verse 8. As we have said already, and even just now, repetitively I say, if under the condition someone communicates a useful message to you contrary, even greater than that which you received, it shall be, in fact I command and want it to exist as, a curse with a dreadful 58 consequence. Galatians 1 verse 9. For because currently, is it men I presently persuade, actually using words to win the favor of, seducing and appeasing for Theos? And by comparison, do I seek to please and accommodate humans? Yet nevertheless, if men I am accommodating and exciting, being lifted up as a slave of Christu, certainly not was me. Galatians 1 verse 10. But nevertheless, I profess and reveal to you brothers of the good message which having been communicated advantageously by and through myself, because it is not in accord with man. Galatians 1 verse 11, but neither because I by man associating myself with it. Nor was I taught or instructed as a disciple. But to the contrary, by way of a revelation, an appearance serving to uncover and unveil Isu Christu. Galatians 1 verse 12. Because indeed, you heard of my wayward behavior in a time and place in the practice of Judaism, namely that because throughout, showing superiority, surpassing any measure of restraint, and to an extraordinary degree, better than anyone else, I was aggressively and intensely pursuing, persecuting, oppressing, and harassing the called out of God, and I was and am devastating her, continuing to undermine, overthrow, and annihilate her. Galatians 1 verse 13. And so I was and continue to progress, accomplishing a great deal, and I persist moving forward in the practice of Judaism, over and beyond many contemporaries among my race, zealous and excited, devoted and burning with passion to belong to the traditions and teachings handed down by my forefathers. Galatians 1 verse 14. But at a point in time when it pleased and was chosen to be better for theos, the one having appointed me, setting me aside out of the womb of my mother 59, Galatians 1 verse 15, to reveal and disclose, uncovering and unveiling the Son of him in order that I could announce the beneficial message among the races, immediately. I did not ask the advice of or consult with flesh or blood. Galatians 1 verse 16. I did not ascend into Jerusalem with the goal of being with or against the apostles before me, but to the contrary I went away, withdrawing to Arabia, and returned again to Damascus. Galatians 1 verse 17, then later in the sequence of events, after 3 years' time, I ascended up to Jerusalem to visit and get acquainted with Cephas and remained against him for 15 days. Galatians 1 verse 18, but other of the apostles, I did not see. I did not pay attention to them, nor concern myself with them except Jacob, the brother of the Curios Lord. Galatians 1 verse 19. But now what I write to you, you must pay especially close attention in the presence of theos, because I cannot lie. Galatians 1 verse 20. Thereafter, I came to the regions of Syria and also of Cilicia. Galatians 1 verse 21, but I was not known and was disregarded, either ignored, not understood, or unrecognized personally by appearance as an individual by the called out of Yehuda in Christo. Galatians 1 verse 22. But then they were constantly hearing that the one presently pursuing and persecuting us at various times, now he presently proclaims a healing message of faith where once he was attacking, continuing to annihilate, ravaging and destroying. Galatians 1 verse 23, and so they were praising and glorifying me, attributing an exceptionally high value and status to me, considering me illustrious and magnificent, magnifying in me for theos. Galatians 1 verse 24. Later, through 14 years also, I went up to 60 Jerusalem along with Barnabas, having taken along also Titus. Galatians 2 verse 1, I went up from uncovering and unveiling revelation which lays bare, laying down to them the beneficial messenger which I preach among the races according to what is mine alone, uniquely and separately. But then as a result of the opinions, presumptions, and suppositions, into foolishness and stupidity, without purpose, it was thought that I had run. Galatians 2 verse 2, on the contrary, not even Titus, a Greek individual, was compelled, forced or pressured to be circumcised. Galatians 2 verse 3. But then on account of the impersonators who faked their relationship and were brought in surreptitiously into the group to spy upon and plot against the freedom from conscience and liberation from the constraints of morality that we possess in Christo Isu in order that us they will actually make us subservient, controlling us for their own ends, Galatians 2 verse 4, to whom neither to a moment we yielded, surrendered, or submitted in order that the truth of the theos may continue to be associated among you. Galatians 2 verse 5. But now from the ones currently presumed and supposed to be someone important based upon some sort of unspecified past, they were actually and continue to be nothing, completely meaningless and totally worthless, to me. It carries through and bears differently in the face of theos with regard to man not taking hold or receiving, because to me, the ones currently presuming and dispensing opinions based upon reputed appearances, were of no account. Worthless was their advice and counsel in the past. Galatians 2 verse 6. Contrariwise, the objection and exception, having 61 been seen and perceived because, namely, I have been believed to have been entrusted with the healing message and beneficial messenger of the uncircumcised inasmuch as Petros/rock of the circumcised. Galatians 2 verse 7, because then namely, the one having previously functioned in Petro to an apostle for the circumcision, it was actually functioning also in me to the nations and ethnicities. Galatians 2 verse 8. And having recognized, becoming familiar with the charis grace of the one having been given to me, Jacob, Cephas, and also Yehochanan, the ones presently presumed and supposed to be leaders, the right place of honor and authority they granted to me, and to Barnabas fellowship as a result. We to the nations and ethnicities, but they to the circumcision. Galatians 2 verse 9, only alone by itself the lowly and poor, the worthless beggars of little value that we might remember and possibly think about which also I was eager and quick to do the same. Galatians 2 verse 10. But when Cephas came to Antioch, I was opposed to and against his presence. I stood in hostile opposition because he was convicted and condemned, even ignorant. Galatians 2 verse 11, because, before a certain individual came from Jacob, he was eating together with the different races, but when he came, he was withdrawing and was separating himself, out of fear of the circumcised. Galatians 2 verse 12, so they were hypocritical, and also the remaining Yehudim. As a result even Barnabas was led away and astray with them in their duplicitous hypocrisy. Galatians 2 verse 13. Nevertheless, when I saw that they were not walking through life rightly with the truth of the healing and beneficial messenger, I said to Cephas in front of all, if you Jews are actively being racists, how do you compel and force the ethnicities into being and acting Jewish? Galatians 2 verse 14, we are Jews by nature 62 and are not from the social outcasts of sinful and heathen races. Galatians 2 verse 15. I have come to realize, albeit without investigation or evidence, that by no means whatsoever is any man made right or vindicated by means of acting upon or engaging in the Torah if not by belief and faith in Isu Christu. And we of Christian Isaun, ourselves believed in order for us to have become righteous, we have to have been acquitted and vindicated out of faith in Christu, and not by means of acting upon or engaging in the Torah, because by means of engaging in and acting upon the Torah not any flesh will be acquitted or vindicated, nor be made righteous. Galatians 2 verse 16. But if by seeking to be made righteous and innocent in Christo, we were found ourselves also to be social outcasts and sinners, shouldn't we be anxious that Christos becomes a guilty, errant, and misled, servant of sin? Not may it exist, Galatians 2 verse 17, because if that which I have torn down and dissolved, dismantled and invalidated, abolishing and discarding, this on the other hand I restore or reconstruct, promoting this edifice, I myself bring into existence and recommend transgression and disobedience. Galatians 2 verse 18. I then, because of the Torah's allotment and law, myself, genuinely died and was separated in order that to theos I might currently live. In Christo I have actually been crucified together with. Galatians 2 verse 19. I live, but no longer I. He lives then in me, Christos. This because now I live in the flesh. In faith I live of the theos and Christou, the one having loved me and surrendered for me, entrusting authority to me, yielding and handing over to me the power to control, 63 influence, and instruct exclusively of himself because of me. Galatians 2 verse 20. I do not reject the charis grace of the theos because if by the Torah we achieve righteousness then, as a result, Christos for no reason or cause, without benefit and in vain, he died. Galatians 2 verse 21. O ignorant and irrational, unintelligent and unreasonable, Galatians. Who bewitched and deceived you, and who are you slandering, bringing this evil upon you, seducing yourselves? Galatians 3 verse 1. This alone I want to learn from you, out of accomplishments of the Torah was the Spirit received by you or alternatively out of hearing and belief. Galatians 3 verse 2, in this way you are ignorant and irrational, lacking in knowledge and unable to think logically. Having begun with the Spirit, now in flesh are you completing. Galatians 3 verse 3. So much and for so long you have suffered these things, vexed and annoyed without reason or result, chaotically without a plan. If indeed this really happened and you were so thoughtless, achieving nothing, being without reason or result. Galatians 3 verse 4. The one therefore then supplying you with the Spirit and causing it to function, was this operation of powers in you by acting upon and engaging in the tasks delineated in the Torah or out of hearing faith. Galatians 3 verse 5. Just as and to the degree that Abram believed and had faith in the theos so it was reasoned and accounted to him as righteousness. Galatians 3 verse 6, you know as a result that the ones out of faith, these are the sons of Abram. Galatians 3 verse 7. Having seen beforehand by contrast in the writing that out of faith makes right to people from different 64 races and places, the theos, he before beneficial messenger acted on behalf of Abram so that they would in time be spoken of sympathetically in you to all the races. Galatians 3 verse 8, as a result, the ones out of faith, we are spoken of favorably, even praised together with the faithful Abram. Galatians 3 verse 9. Given the choice between relying upon Yahowah's word as it was scribed by Moseh and Daud, or believing what was scribbled in Sha'uwl/Paul's letters, it is a wonder 3 people, much less 3 billion, have chosen to place their faith in this worm of a man. It is also hard to imagine that someone claiming to speak for God would call his Torah a curse. But nonetheless, that is precisely what the founder of the Christian religion said next. Because, for, to the degree that, hosos, as many and as far as, out of, tasks and activities of, works or actions associated with, engaging in or acting upon, the Torah, Torah, tragically misrepresented as, law, but meaning, the means to being nourished by that which is bestowed to become heirs, precepts which were apportioned, established, and received as a means to prosper and be approved, and prescriptions for an inheritance, from nemo, that which is provided. Assigned, and distributed to heirs to nourish them, singular genitive, and thus a specific characterization, they exist being, eisen, under, hupa, by way of, a curse, katara, that which a supernatural power deploys when he wishes to invoke harm by promoting evil, that which is accursed, denounced and detested, because, for indeed, it has been written, grapho, that, hodi, to become accursed, epikateratos. To be exposed, abhorrent, and repugnant, slanderous, hateful, and malicious, to become is a product of the nominative case. Is everyone, all and completely, who, does not, remain in, stay and continue in, persevering with, all, that, toys, has been written 65, grapho, in, the scroll, to biblion, the book or documented written record typically on papyrus, of the, Torah, Torah, accordingly, to perform, poiomai, to make, produce, or do, them, autos, Galatians 3 verse 10. This is the ultimate Pauline confession and it is to the crime of the millennia. For informed and rational individuals, the case against Paul is closed. The testimony Yahowah has called good, beneficial, and perfect, healing and restoring, Sha'uwl has just labeled abhorrent and malicious. Since both cannot be telling the truth, who do you suppose is lying? And as for anyone who feels that my vilification of the plague of death is too harsh, God begs to differ. The curse isn't the Torah but, instead, Paul. We have comprehensively researched every discernible connotation of nomos. And here, Sha'uwl has openly confessed to what we have long known. He is using nomo to describe the Torah, as if nomos and Torah were synonymous. We know this because in the attempt to prove this point he translated the Hebrew word Torah into Greek as nomo. As a result, a Pauline apologist can no longer promote the myth that Paul was condemning rabbinic law instead of the Torah without contradicting Paul's own testimony. With this statement, the debate is over, the question has been answered. Paul is demeaning and denouncing not just the word of God, but Yahowah's foundational testimony. Beyond emphatically demonstrating that Sha'uwl was using variations of nomos to convey Torah throughout his letters, to be intellectually honest, the meaning of Torah in Hebrew which is teaching, instruction, direction, and guidance must prevail over law. Therefore, not only is Paul implicating himself by disparaging the Word of God, those who publish Christian 66 Bibles are universally guilty of misrepresenting one of the most important words ever written when they render Torah via nomos as law. While Sha'uwl has bragged about annulling and destroying Yahowah's teaching, he has now upped the ante. He has devolved into outright slander. Katara, translated as a curse, is actually a considerably more demeaning concept. This noun is defined in a dozen lexicons as being an execration, imprecation, and malediction. Since these are not common terms, let's consider how they are defined. To execrate is to denounce someone or something in an insulting manner, declaring it or them to be abhorrent and loathsome. To imprecate is to invoke evil on someone or something, cursing them or using profanity. And a malediction is defined as a word or phrase uttered with the intention of bringing about evil. It speaks of slander which maligns and is malicious, and of magical thinking. If we are to believe Sha'uwl, all of these pejoratives apply to Yahowah and to his Torah. Katara is a compound of era, a malevolent prayer which is harmful, hateful, and repugnant, and kata, meaning down from, according to, and throughout. Therefore, there is no getting around the fact that Sha'uwl is denouncing Yahowah's Torah because he loathes it. Sha'uwl wants us to believe that the book Yahowah authored to introduce himself, to reveal his covenant, to present his invitations, and to provide his guidance is hateful and abhorrent, something to be maligned because it is evil, slanderous, harmful, and malicious throughout. This known, I have a confession. I joined the two verbs in the opening statement together because the second insertion of eisen, which means they are or they exist, when it is scribed in the third person plural, is out of place at the statement's conclusion. According to the Nestle Aland, this sentence actually reads, for as many as from works of law are under curse they are. Therefore, I-67 combined the verbs to convey the concepts of being and existing. In both instances, eisen was scribed in the present active indicative third person plural. In the present tense, Paul is portraying the evil curse as being in process with no end in sight. The active voice reveals that those who have chosen to observe the Torah have brought this abhorrent, harmful, and repugnant condition upon themselves. Worse, in the indicative mood, Paul is saying that his evaluation of the Torah and its consequence is real, genuine, and actual. Sha'uwl used a variation of katara to convey accursed in his citation of the Torah's dabrim/words/Deuteronomy 27 verse 26. This variation is from epikateratos, an adjective that adds the prefix api, meaning on, upon, before, or against. As such, Paul is attempting to ascribe each of the horrendous aspects of katara to the Torah itself, impugning its author, by inserting this abhorrent concept directly into the Torah's dialogue. By doing so in this context, Sha'uwl is affirming beyond any doubt that the nomos he is attempting to destroy is the one Yahowah authored. If he had meant to demean rabbinic law, he would have quoted from the oral law which became the Talmud. Incidentally, Sha'ul's initial condemnation is actually undermined by his citation. If the Torah is katara, a curse from a supernatural power designed to invoke harm by promoting evil, and if it is katara, abhorrent, slanderous, and malicious, then it cannot be a credible source. That which is katara is not reliable, and thus should not have been used to validate his claim. And yet, having come to understand Paul's strategy relative to dissolving and dismantling the Torah, and now viewing it as it is presented in Galatians 3 verse 6 to 4:31, there is no denying that Paul was trying to use the Torah to 68 demonstrate that the Torah should not be used. And he did so foolishly by citing a passage that negated his point simply because it included the words curse and Torah. Sha'uwl was evidently hoping that his audience would believe he was right in inferring that even God thought the Torah is a curse. Beyond this singular similarity, it was counterproductive for him to cite dabrim/words/Deuteronomy 27 verse 26 in this context. After all, the passage says nothing about working for one's salvation. But if, as Christians protest, Paul was intending to say that observing the Torah cannot save us because we have to do everything that is written in the scroll of the Torah or be accursed by it, then they and he would still be wrong. While that is the most reasonable interpretation of Paul's rhetoric, the very purpose of the Torah is to provide a remedy for our failures. It perfects the imperfect. The flawed and truncated Greek citation is based upon dabrim/words/Deuteronomy 27 verse 26. The discussion in which it is found begins with a long list of blessings, all of which flow from observing the Torah, all of which, therefore, negate the point Sha'uwl was attempting to promote. As always, the context destroys his argument. Starting with the 9th verse of Dabrim 27, we find. Then, Moseh, one who draws out, the priests, ha-Kohen, ministers, and the Loi, those who unite, spoke, daber, sharing the word, to all, kol, Yisrael, individuals who engage and endure with God, to say, la omar, in order to communicate, choose to be quiet, saketh, refrain from speaking and elect to be silent. The hyphal stem and imperative mood mean that we facilitate our ability to listen when we choose to close our mouths, and, listen. Shama, here, Yisrael, everyone who exists and endures with God. This, Hazeh, De, Yaum, 69 Haya, you exist as, in the Niphal perfect, the existence of an individual who lives with God is predicated upon their willingness to listen to God's complete testimony, a family, of related people, approaching, Yahowah, a transliteration of Yahowah as instructed in his Torah, teaching regarding his Haya, existence, your God, Elohim. 27:9. Choose to actually listen, Shama, under the auspices of free will, elect to literally hear the totality of, the Kal stem encourages a literal interpretation, the perfect conjugation conveys completeness, and the consecutive mood is an expression of volition, to the voice of, Kal, to the speech and words of, Yahowah, the pronunciation of Yahowah as guided by his Torah, teaching regarding his Haya, existence, your God, Elohim. And, of your own volition, act upon, asah, elect to observe, celebrate, gain from, and profit in accordance with, his terms and conditions, mitzvah, the directions associated with his relationship agreement, along with, his inscribed prescriptions for living, chak, his written instructions which cut us into the relationship, which beneficially, asher, as a result of the relationship. I am instructing you, enkit saw, I am guiding, directing, and teaching you, this day, hayaum. Dabrim/words/Deuteronomy 27 verses 9 to 10. Rather than praying without ceasing, which is a constant jabbering and something only Paul insisted upon, Yahowah is encouraging his children to be quiet and listen to what he has to say. By doing so, we are prepared to respond to the conditions of his covenant which serve as prescriptions for living. Yahowah inspired Moses to explain that, by listening to him and by responding to his Torah, a person is established in the relationship and blessed. But then, 70 knowing that many would choose a different course, with many being misled by the likes of Sha'uwl, the Torah delineates a series of behaviors that God says will engender an unfavorable response. Invoking harm upon oneself, error, bringing a curse upon oneself by making oneself unlikable, is the individual, who, asher, engages and acts with regard to, asah, who conceives, performs on behalf of, and makes, a presentation of a false god, pesel, an idol or icon fashioned to be believed and worshipped. Any, representation of a pagan god which is offered, masika, presented as a cocktail of imagined deities poured out, is a detestable thing, toiba, an abomination which is repulsive, loathsome, and abhorrent, to Yahowah, written as directed by his Torah, teaching regarding his haya, existence. It is the work, ma'aseh, the pursuit, practice and undertaking, of the hand, yad, influence. Note that Sha'ul's epistles were inscribed by the hand, of a clever and crafty man, charash, of an artificer who contrives and devises an inscribed and artificial construct, choosing to present it, wasim, and through their designs to formally place it, bringing it about, establishing, listing and appointing it, slyly, concealing his purpose, ba hasether, acting covertly in a veiled manner so as to hide his disingenuous behavior, doing it in a hidden way obfuscating his motives. And then, the entire family, replied, Amar, this is truthful, trustworthy, and reliable, amen, this is verifiable and dependable. Dabrim/word/Deuteronomy 27 verse 15. The list of counterproductive behaviors continues with he, who lightly esteems his, heavenly, father and mother, who steals his neighbor's property, who misleads a blind person, who denies justice to a 71 stranger, foreigner, orphan, or widow, who commits any form of incest, who commits bestiality, who strikes and beats his neighbor, and who accepts a bribe which harms an innocent person. Dabrim/word/Deuteronomy 27 verses 16 to 25. We should not be surprised, therefore, that those who consistently perpetrate these unsavory behaviors will be shunned by God. But it is telling that the course Paul charted was listed first, in 27:15, and unlike the others was called an abomination, suggesting that nothing is worse than what Sha'uwl has done. Paul's misappropriated citation follows. It was misquoted and then removed from the context which incriminated him, since the Dabrim message is the antithesis of what Paul reported. Invoking harm upon oneself, error, cursing oneself by making oneself undesirable, is whoever relationally and beneficially, asher, is not, established, restored, supported, encouraged, lifted up and caused to stand, confirmed, and enabled to endure, by, with and through, the words, daber, message and accounts, of this, Torah, source of guidance, direction, teaching, and instruction, approaching, law, by engaging through them, asah, by acting upon them and doing productive things according to them, celebrating and profiting with them. And then, the entire, family, people and nation, responded, Amar, answered, promised, and declared, this is true, acceptable, and reliable, Aman, this is affirming, supportive, verifiable, and dependable. Dabrim/word/Deuteronomy 27 verse 26. Therefore, according to Yahowah, invoking harm upon oneself is whoever relationally and beneficially is not established, restored, and supported by the words of this Torah teaching, approaching by acting upon 72 them. And the entire family responded, this is true, acceptable, reliable, verifiable, and dependable. This means that any attack on the Torah, any belittlement of it, any attempt to negate or annul it, any statement which suggests that it is a curse, is directly opposed to Yahowah's guidance. It also means that, to make his point, Sha'uwl had to misquote God to the point of inverting his message. But more on that in a moment. When Paulos misquoted Yahowah's instruction regarding the restorative nature of his Torah to imply that it was a curse, two things became indisputable. First, Paul is deliberately and undeniably contradicting Yahowah. The man's message and God's testimony are incongruous. Their conclusions are the antithesis of one another. Therefore, this man could not have been speaking for God. And second, since Paulos wrote nomo in his letter to translate the word, Torah, in Moses' statement, each time we see any variation of nomos in the Greek text, we should translate it, Torah. The man whose letter we are evaluating translated it for us. And in this case, that must take precedence over any lexicon. Reinforcing God's essential instruction, the very next statement from Moses regarding the value of Yahowah's Torah reveals. And it shall reliably exist, the Torah, was, and without interruption it will literally be. The Cal stem affirms that this promise can literally be relied upon, the perfect conjugation conveys that this realization is total and complete without interruption, and consecutive mood affirms that this is God's desire and our choice, that if, predicated upon the condition that, you really listen to and consistently hear, shama ba, you actually pay attention to and continually receive, the Cal stem conveys the genuine and literal nature of the 73 relationship, while the imperfect conjugation communicates that which is continual and consistent, unfolding throughout time, the voice of, Kau, the recited words of, Yahowah, Yahowah, an accurate presentation of the name of Eloah, God as guided by his Torah, instructions regarding his haya, existence, your God, Elohim, for the purpose of, law, observing, shamar. Closely examining and carefully considering. And for the purpose of, law, engaging in and acting upon, asah, celebrating and profiting through, all of, his terms and conditions, mitzvah, the codicils of his covenant, which beneficially and relationally, asher, Enki, am instructing, saw, I am directing, teaching, and guiding, you this day, ha-yam, then, Yahowah, written as directed by his Torah, teaching regarding his haya, existence, your God, Elohim, he will place and appoint you, naten, he. Will grant you the opportunity to be, as the Most High, Elion, among and above, all, Kol, the ethnicities, Gowan, people from different races and places, of the earth, errants. And, flowing over you, bow, coming upon you, will be all of these, the Almighty's, blessings, Kol ha-baraka, beneficial promises and valuable gifts, continuing to reach and inundate you, Nazag, will be offered to you, when, you consistently listen, Shama, to the voice of, Ka'ul, the recited words of, Yahowah, a transliteration of, our, Eloah, God as directed in his Torah, teaching regarding his Haya, existence, your God, Elohim. Dabrim/word/Deuteronomy 28 verses 1-2. The Torah's guidance is as wonderful as its teaching is consistent, as rewarding as its instructions are enlightening. The Torah exists to bless us in this life and reward us in the next. All we have to do to benefit from Yahowah's promises is to listen to him and then act upon what he has requested. 74 Since Yahowah inspired Moses to say, invoking harm upon oneself is whoever relationally and beneficially is not established, restored, and supported by the words of this Torah, approaching by engaging through them. And then the entire family responded, this is true, acceptable, and reliable. Dabrim 27:26. Why did Paul write? Because to the degree that out of tasks and activities of the Torah, they exist under a curse which a supernatural power deploys when he wishes to invoke harm by promoting evil, doing what is accursed, denounced, and detested, for it has been written that, to become accursed, abhorrent and repugnant, everyone who does not remain in everything that has been written in the scroll of the Torah, such that they do them. Galatians 3 verse 10. These statements are the antithesis of one another, diametrically opposed and opposites. The Torah says, a person invokes harm upon themselves and is not restored or established, when they ignore the Torah by failing to act upon it. Galatians says, to become accursed, a person should remain associated with Torah, doing everything it requires. Paul's citation is so blatantly fraudulent, so obviously disingenuous. Why have so many people been fooled by all of these errant quotations and subsequent assertions? This is not the first time Sha'uwl has misquoted God, nor will it be his last. It is just the worst. Along these lines, please make a note of Yahowah's instruction in Dabrim 28:1-2, where he has asked us to genuinely listen to and hear the voice of Yahowah, our God, repeating the request twice. Later in Galatians, Sha'uwl will play off of Yahowah's listen to me, mocking God to say, the Torah cannot hear you. Inverting God's message was his specialty. He was better at it than the serpent in the garden. 75 Now that you are informed, if you are rational, it is impossible for you to view Paul in Galatians favorably. He is disingenuous, and it is filled with his deceptions. And while I wish it were that simple, it isn't, because Paul's destructive, deadly, and damning rhetoric has been placed where it does the most harm, superseding the Torah and prophets. He has undermined Yahowah's credibility and testimony, and promoted something that is completely opposed to both. All the while, he was pretending to speak for God by misquoting him. In this way, Sha'uwl has done more to separate souls from God than anyone who has ever lived. It is the reason he alone was called out by Yahowah, by name, with God telling us that his religion would be as popular as it would be devastatingly deadly among Gentiles. And while that's sad, since Paul demonized Jews, his anti-Semitic religion is an abomination. According to the Nestle-Aland, the statement Paul wrote actually reads, for as many as from works of law are under curse they are. It has been written for, not applicable, curse on all who not stay in all the things having been written in the small book of the law that to do them. Not bothering to examine the passage Sha'uwl cited in the Torah, as it was written in Hebrew, Bacon's King James Version, and Jerome's Latin Vulgate, misquoted Sha'uwl and Yahowah. And by doing so, they demeaned the source of life. KJV, for as many as are of the works of the law are under the curse, for it is written, cursed is every one that continueth not in all things which are written in the book of the law to do them. LV, for as many as are of the works of the law, operibus legis, are under a curse. For it has been written, scriptum, cursed is everyone who does not continue in all the things that have been written in the book of the law, libro legis, so as to do them. 76 After considerable study and thought, I'm convinced that, while the New Living Translation is inconsistent with the Greek text, this Christian publisher accurately conveyed Paul's intended message, but those who depend on the law to make them right with God are under his curse, for the scriptures say, cursed is everyone who does not observe and obey all the commands that are written in God's book of the law. You'll notice, of course, that the NLT had to corrupt the Dabrim quotation to keep it from refuting Paul's thesis. But that is precisely what Paul wanted them to do, what he expected those he deceived to do, which is why he thought he could get away with misquoting a passage to support his declaration when he knew that it was actually in direct opposition to it. Paul's strategy here, as it will be in each of the passages which comprise the foundation of his thesis, is to play off word pairs and patterns. In Galatians 3 verse 10, the operative words associating Paul's premise with the inaccurately cited verse are, cursed, Torah, doing. Variations of each of these words appear in both statements, albeit to communicate mutually opposed ideas. Ambivalent to Paul's tactic of his willingness to twist the Torah to serve his agenda, Christians and Jews have been cursed by the legacy of Galatians. They have now been led to believe that the Torah is not just irrelevant and passé but is actually a curse to be avoided, and they have used it to drive a wedge between Jews and their God. Nonetheless, Yahowah's instruction is clear. It is neither hidden nor obscure. This is hard to misinterpret. Invoking harm upon oneself is whoever relationally and beneficially is not established, restored, and supported by the words of this Torah, approaching by engaging through them. And then the entire family responded, this is true, acceptable, and reliable. 77, Dabrim 27:26, and as always, the context in which it was delivered reinforced the merit of God's instruction. In light of this statement, and the ones which precede and follow it in Dabrim, Paul's postulate is torn asunder. According to God, the Torah is not just the means to eternal life, it is the only way to live forever, which is why those who do not capitalize upon it are said to be harming themselves. And yet Christians have managed to justify the juxtaposition of two mutually exclusive thoughts, one from man, the other from God, to infer that the Torah is a curse, rather than the source of life and redemption. It is little wonder that Yahowah called Sha'uwl the plague of death. Continuing to play games with word patterns, Sha'uwl reinforced a similar presumption by once again misappropriating God's testimony. But, it follows, moreover, and namely, because, odi, with n, inside and with regard to, the Torah, nomo, the Torah teaching, with nomo meaning, allotment which is parceled out, the inheritance which is given, and the prescription to become an heir, absolutely no one, udes, nothing, nobody, and not one, from out haze, not even a singular individual, is vindicated or justified, decayu, made or shown to be correct, proper, or right, acquitted or declared righteous, by, para. With and in the opinion of, the God, to theta omega, the theos, becomes evident, delos, becomes clear and is made plain, scribed in the nominative, where an adjective is presented influencing the subject, God, in this case, renaming him, because, odi, namely and for this reason, those who are correct, righteous, and proper, o dikeos, those who are right, upright, virtuous, and guiltless, out of, faith, pistis, originally meant trust but evolved to faith or belief as a 78. Result of Sha'ul's usage in these letters. Will live, zeo, will be alive, Galatians 3 verse 11. This statement is as errant as it is unequivocal. Sha'uwl has misquoted Yahowah, twisting his words again to claim that God is incapable of saving anyone. Sha'uwl/Paul wants Christians to believe that, through days, absolutely no one, not even one person, can become righteous or vindicated as a result of Yahowah's Torah guidance. If this is so, why did God say otherwise? If so, why did Yahowah send Dowd to fulfill the Torah's promises on the Mikri invitations to be called out in meat, of Pesach, Passover, matzah, unyeasted bread, and bikurim, firstborn children? Why was the Torah associated with the doorway to eternal life during the instruction on the Mount? And if Yahowah cannot save, how is it that Paul or Gospel Jesus could do what God could not? Why does Yahowah say that Dowd is right and thus vindicated if he is incompetent? Why did Yahowah bother saving Noah? What was the purpose of liberating the children of Yisrael from the crucibles of oppression in Egypt? Why bother with the covenant if no one survives to enjoy it? Why did Yahowah promise to make his children immortal and perfect, adopting them, enriching them, and empowering them as the benefits of the covenant? Should Paul be right and God wrong, if the Torah cannot do any of these things, the children of Yahowah's covenant, Abraham, Yitzchak, Jacob, and all 12 of Jacob's sons, are dead, along with Adam, Chawah, Noach, his family, Moseh, Aharon, Yahusha, Ben Nun, Dowd, Shamuel, and all of the prophets including Yashaya and Yirmiah. If Paul is right, there would have been no hope for anyone who lived in the first 79 millennia of human history. Even the man who scribed the Torah would have been destined for Sha'uwl. Why write the Torah? Why bother with the prophets? What is the purpose of the Psalms? Why was the covenant conceived? Why were the 10 statements etched in stone? Why did God bother inviting us to attend his 7 annual feasts? What is the benefit of God accurately predicting the future if not to demonstrate that he can be trusted? Sha'uwl has clearly thrown down the gauntlet by saying that God's teaching and guidance, his Torah, has not, cannot, and will not save a single solitary soul. So, how does anyone benefit from what Yahowah has done if they do not know what he has done? How does Passover restore life? How does unyeasted bread perfect souls? What is the means to adoption into the covenant family on firstborn children? How and why did Yahowah enrich and empower his family? What is the purpose of the covenant? These are all questions without answers should the Torah be rendered moot. And that, perhaps, is the reason Sha'uwl never addresses any of these issues. All he asks is that you believe him when he lies, especially when misquoting and contradicting God. Most people don't know that Habakkuk was one of Yahowah's prophets, and that is to their detriment because, taunting and mocking those he played for fools, Sha'uwl ripped a passage out of a prophecy that actually condemned him by name. This is as brazen as Muhammad telling Muslims that the proper food for them to consume was halal, which is Satan's given name. The battle lines have been drawn. There is no getting around what is at stake. This is Sha'uwl and his letters versus Yahowah and his Torah, prophets, and Psalms. So let's compare notes. Perhaps we should reevaluate Yahowah's narrative in 80 Habakkuk in which Sha'ul's lies were exposed. In that getting this right is important, let's not make the same mistake that Sha'uwl made by removing part of one verse from the context of that prophetic discussion. Yahowah begins. Upon my requirements and responsibilities, I will continually stand. I will provide affirmation and validation for that which protects and fortifies. Therefore, I will be on the lookout in order to see what he will say about me, observing how he will question me. So then, how can I be expected to change my attitude, my thinking, or my response concerning my disapproving rebuke? Habakkuk 2 verse 1. Then Yahowah responded to me, and he said, write this revelation and expound on it in writing so that by reciting this, he might run away. 2:2, Still surely, this revelation from God is for the appointed time of the mode meetings. It provides a witness and speaks, pouring out evidence in the end. Whatever extended period of time is required for this question to be resolved, this shall not be proven false. Expect him in this regard, because indeed, he will absolutely come, neither being delayed nor lingering. Habakkuk 2 verse 3. Pay attention, he will be puffed up with false pride. His soul, it is not right or straightforward in him. Therefore, through trust and reliance, by being firmly established and upheld by that which is dependable and truthful, those who are upright and vindicated shall live. Habakkuk 2 verse 4. Before we press on and consider the remainder of this prophetic warning regarding Sha'uwl Paul, let's check to see if he quoted Yahowah accurately when he wrote, "But because with the Torah absolutely no one is vindicated or justified by God becomes evident because those 81 who are correct, righteous, and proper, out of faith will live." Sha'uwl/Galatians 3 verse 11. Once again, a modicum of inquiry reveals that Sha'uwl twisted Yahowah's statement so significantly that the opposite of what was conveyed was used to undermine God's credibility. But this time, in so doing, Sha'uwl took us directly to Yahowah's single most damning personal rebuke. The prophecy continues, with Yah saying, "Moreover, because the intoxicating and inebriating spirit of this man of deceptive infidelity and treacherous betrayal is a high-minded moral failure, and his is an arrogant and meritless presumption, he will not rest, find peace, or live, whoever is open to the broad path, the duplicitous and improper way, associated with Sha'uwl. He and his soul are like the plague of death. And so those who are brought together by him, receiving him, will never be satisfied. All of the Gentiles will gather together unto him, all of the people from different races and nations in different places." Habakkuk/Habakkuk 2 verse 5. But they do not ask questions, any of them, about him. Terse references to the word they lift up as taunts to ridicule, with implied associations that mock, controlling through comparison and counterfeit, along with elusive sayings with derisive words arrogantly conveyed. There are hard and perplexing questions which need to be asked of him, and duplicitous dealings to be known regarding him. So they should say, "Woe to the one who claims to be great so as to increase his offspring, acting like a rabbi, when neither applies to him. For how long will they make pledges based upon 82 his significance, becoming burdened by his testimony?" Habakkuk/Habakkuk 2 verse 6. Woe to one who is cut off, coveting, while wickedly soliciting ill-gotten gain in league with him, setting up and appointing his temple in association with heights of heaven, thereby snatching away property and possessions from the paws of fellow countrymen. Habakkuk/Habakkuk 2 verse 9. You have deliberately decided upon and conspired at the advice of another to promote a shameful plot to confuse those who approach your religious edifice, ruining and reducing many by separating people from different races and places, and in the process losing your soul. Habakkuk/Habakkuk 2 verse 10. Woe to the one who causes his neighbors, companions, or countrymen to drink, thereby associating them with this venomous wrath, but also making them drunk for the purpose of observing their genitals. You will get your fill of shame and infamy instead of honor and glory. Inebriated, in addition, you also show yourself unacceptable, going roundabout over the lack of circumcision. Upon you is the binding cup of Yahowah's right hand. Therefore, public humiliation and indignity will be your status and reward. Habakkuk/embrace this/Habakkuk 2 verses 15 to 16. Sobering. Beyond Sha'uwl/Paul's pathetic attack on the Torah, his entire premise is nonsensical. Faith has no value. Imagine three people crossing a bridge over a deep cavern. The first has complete faith in its design and construction. The second despises the architect and builder and has no confidence in either. The third is the village 83 idiot who couldn't spell cat even if you spotted him the C and T. And yet their fate is the same, unaffected by their beliefs. They will succeed or fail, live or die, based upon the viability of the bridge, not their attitude toward it. In so many ways, faith is the antithesis of trust, just as belief is the inverse of reliance. This dichotomy exists because trust is predicated upon knowing and understanding, while faith fills the void when both are absent. From this perspective, the King James Version, which is a revision 5 times over of the Latin Vulgate, which was a blended compilation of Greek translations of the Hebrew text, is worse than misleading with regard to the Torah's message. They are wrong. KJV, but that no man is justified by the law in the sight of God, it is evident, for the just shall live by faith. The King James position is illogical, albeit since it's a translation, it may not be entirely their fault. Even if no one was justified by the Torah, that does not infer that the just shall live by faith. Rather than cause and effect, these are mutually exclusive ideas. It is like saying, Islam does not work so it is evident we should all be atheists. The Roman Catholic text reads, and, since in the law no one is justified with God, this is manifest, for the just man lives by faith. That is not what Yahowah said or Habakkuk wrote. And it is not true. Often entertaining, NLT postured, so it is clear that no one can be made right with God by trying to keep the law. For the scriptures say, it is through faith that a righteous person has life. While this was Sha'ul's intent, Paul has been anything but clear. The passages he has quoted he has muddled, and he is often guilty of contradicting his own statements in addition to God's. Moreover, the Torah does not say anything about faith, much less that belief leads to being righteous. As has become our custom, let's also consider the 84 Nestle Alan McReynolds interlinear. It conveys, but that in law no one is made right along the God clear because the right from trust will live. If God's word cannot save anyone, then whose words can? Should faith actually be the key to salvation, who should we believe? Said another way, who would be so foolish as to believe a man who said that he spoke for a God who he claimed could not be trusted? Speaking of trust, you may have noticed that with the exception of the Nestle Aland interlinear, all three of the most popular Bible translations rendered pistis, faith, and not trust. So, while we have done all of the etymological archaeology necessary to prove that pistis meant trust and reliance to Greeks circa 50 CE, the uniformity found in Old and Modern translations regarding pistis demonstrates that Paul's letters caused its meaning to metamorphosize into faith and belief as a result of his popularity. As a direct result of Paul's letters, Christians refer to themselves as believers and use faith as if it were synonymous with religion. Frankly, the moment we recognize that trust is not achievable in the context of Galatians due to its lack of specificity, we must acquiesce to the modern interpretation. After all, it would be absurd to ask someone to trust or rely upon anything without giving them sufficient evidence or reason to do so. But it would be perfectly appropriate to ask them to believe that which they do not know, that which was neither explained nor verified, much less rational. And that is the rub. Paul's position is irrational, necessitating faith. The reason that Paul never provides the basis of trust, which is evidence, or the basis of reliance, which is understanding, is that his letters are focused on articulating contrarian opinions and conflicting conclusions. Reason is his enemy, his most debilitating foe. His singular ploy is to 85 draw invalid cause and effect relationships between false statements. We have seen nothing but a litany of lies tied together by circular reasoning. Not once in the entirety of this epistle has Paul, or will Paul, provide any reliable evidence, and thus nothing to bolster his use of pistis. Even here, where he has misquoted a portion of 2 verses, neither validates his point. Instead, both only reflect his rhetoric when they are inverted. Therefore, since a reader is incapable of trusting his position, Paul has limited believers to put their faith in his assertions, all of which are false. A very thoughtful friend sent a note. He wrote, "When I was agnostic, I would ask Christians why I should place my faith in their religion and not believe the Islamic Allah, Buddha, or even the Hindu gods. No one was able to provide a rational answer. Their only proof was that they felt the presence of their God controlling their lives. And yet, every Islamic terrorist would say the same thing, with many of them willing to kill others in the process of dying for their faith. So I came to realize that faith was this fuzzy nebulous concept which required no thought, no actual evidence, and no proof. With faith, a person does not have to learn anything or think. Both of which are appealing to many. Therefore, the most logical and informed conclusion based upon the evidence available to us is that Paul established his faith, his religion, with these words, rendering them as he intended them. As you read them, remember that this was the beginning of the New Testament, the first words written on behalf of a religion drawing its credibility from a God the chief architect was debasing. It's a wonder it survived this incredulous beginning. O ignorant and irrational, unintelligent and unreasonable, Galatians! Who bewitched and deceived 86 you, and who slandered, bringing this evil upon you, seducing you? Galatians 3 verse 1. This alone I want to learn from you, out of accomplishments of the Torah was the Spirit received by you or alternatively out of hearing and belief. Galatians 3 verse 2. In this way you are ignorant and irrational, lacking in knowledge and unable to think logically. Having begun with the Spirit, now in flesh you are completing. Galatians 3 verse 3. So much and for so long you have suffered these things, vexed and annoyed without reason or result, chaotically without a plan. If indeed this really happened that you were so thoughtless, achieving nothing without reason or result. Galatians 3 verse 4. The one therefore then supplying you with the Spirit and causing it to function, was this operation of powers in you by acting upon and engaging in the tasks delineated in the Torah or out of hearing faith. Galatians 3 verse 5. Just as and to the degree that Abram believed and had faith in the theos so it was reasoned and accounted to him as righteousness. Galatians 3 verse 6, you know as a result that the ones out of faith, these are the sons of Abram. Galatians 3 verse 7. Having seen beforehand then by contrast, in the writing because out of faith makes right the people from different races and places, the theos, he before beneficial messenger acted on behalf of Abram so that they would in time be spoken of favorably in you to all the races. Galatians 3 verse 8, as a result, the ones out of faith, we are spoken of favorably, even praised together with the faithful Abram. Galatians 3 verse 9. For as long as they exist by means of doing the 87 assigned tasks of the Torah, they are under a curse, because it is written that, all are accursed who do not remain alive and persevere with all that is written in the scroll of the Torah, doing it. Galatians 3 verse 10. So with that Torah, absolutely no one is vindicated or saved alongside God. It becomes evident, those who are justified and righteous, out of faith will live. Galatians 3 verse 11. Based on what he has written and what follows, Paul bluntly stated that the Torah was incapable of saving anyone. It is the basis of Pauline doctrine. It is what Christians believe. It is wrong. The Torah says that Yahowah will shower those who listen to him with blessings. He will adopt us into his family, so long as we respond to the advice he has shared in his Torah. And based upon the fulfilled prophecies he has articulated, we can trust him. A relationship with Yahowah is predicated upon coming to know him. This is only possible by reading what he had to say about himself in his Torah. And second, it is predicated upon observing the Torah's guidance regarding the covenant, which enables us to properly respond to its conditions. We approach Yahowah by answering his micro-EY invitations. They work in tandem with the covenant. While no one has ever been saved just because they ate lamb during Passover and matzah on unyeasted bread, it is by capitalizing upon what Yahowah has done for us on these days through his Son that makes it possible for us to live forever, be perfected, and then adopted into Yahowah's family. The reason God consistently uses the Hebrew word, shamar, meaning observe, in connection with his Torah guidance, is because he wants us to examine the 88 Torah closely, to look at it intently, to investigate it thoroughly, to not only move in close and scrutinize its jots and tittles, but to step back and visualize how its threads are woven into a comprehensive and cohesive tapestry. In this regard, shamar and shama are related concepts. Shama means to listen and shamar means to observe. By combining our senses of hearing and sight, our understanding of God grows. By closely examining and carefully considering the Torah as if the fate of our soul depended upon it, by listening to what Yahowah had to say, by coming to know its author, by understanding what he is offering and expects in return, we are in a position to trust him, to rely upon his word. And that is the sum and substance of the Torah, its covenant, and our subsequent redemption. Yahowah explained what we should eat and what to avoid, not only because his advice, if respected, will keep us healthy and enable us to live longer, more enjoyable lives, but also because he wants us to look at the words we are being asked to consume. Ingest too many unhealthy and poisonous propositions, and eventually they will kill you. Dine on a feast of trustworthy terms, like those found in the Torah, and you will live. No one has ever endeared themselves with God because they forsook pork, but if you roll around in the mud with pigs, you are going to get dirty and die estranged from him. There is nothing deadlier than a deceitful diet. God wants us to know him and understand his message, so that we can objectively and rationally choose to trust and rely upon him. He doesn't want us to jump into the unknown with our eyes closed, in a giant leap of faith, because that will get us killed. He wants us to walk with him into the light, with our eyes, ears, hearts, and minds open and receptive to his message. 89-inch and, Wah, I will grow and thrive, Rabbah, I will increase, becoming greater by rearing offspring, continuing to remain, hyphal perfect, with, alongside, your offspring, Zerah, Ada, seed, descendants, and extended family, in connection with, Ka, corresponding to and suitable for, the highest and most illuminated, Kaukab, speaking of the light emanating from stars in the loftiness of, from Kabir, to be multiplied and enriched in abundance, spiritual realm of the heavens, Hashemaim. Of the abode of God in the seventh dimension. In addition, Wah, I will give, Nathan, I will bestow and deliver, I will grant a gift, I will offer and hand down, Kal perfect, to, La, to facilitate the approach of, your offspring, Zerah, Ada, extended family and descendants, everything, Kol, associated with, these, Ha, godly, El, realms, Eretz, regions. So, Wah, through, Ba, with and by way of, your descendants, Zerah, Ada, your seed, offspring, and extended family, every, Kol, race, Gawam, ethnicity and place, on the earth, Ha, Eretz, of the realm and land, will be blessed with more favorable circumstances, Barak, will be greeted, lifted up, commended, and adored. Bears YTH/ in the beginning/ Genesis 26 verse 4. This is because, Ikeb, this is the reason for and the end result of, it is the cause and consequence, the merit and reward, of trusting the evidence, from, Akab, to dig in one's heels, leaving footprints which are straightforward and steadfast, unwavering, the basis of Yaakov's name, to show the way to the benefits of the relationship, Asher, to reveal the path to an upright and elevated state, a joyful attitude, and an encouraged mindset, to demonstrate walking the correct way along. The proper path to a prosperous life, and to make the connections which lead to building an enduring, close, and beneficial association, Abraham, Father who raises and lifts up those who stand up and reach up, Father of the 90 abundantly enriched, merciful Father, or Father of multitudes who are confused and troublesome, listen to, Shama. For a period of time he used his ears and the perception of hearing to completely process audible information so as to totally understand, Kal perfect, literally but not consistently or continually. My voice, Bikal, the way I speak, to the sound of my call, to my audible instructions and guidance, related to Kyum, to arise, take a stand, and establish in Kara, by way of an invitation and summons, an offer to meet and be welcomed, to be called out by reading and reciting, and he visually observed and carefully considered, shamar, he habitually kept his eyes focused upon, literally and continuously closely examining and diligently evaluating, paying attention to the details so that he would understand, thereby protected by caring about, prioritizing, and watching over, Kal imperfect, literally and continually, my requirements and my responsibilities, mishmareth any, my verbalized expressions regarding my mission to provide safeguards and my obligation to fulfill them, from a Sha'uwl, vivid and easily remembered proverbs and parables providing wisdom through representation and comparison and shamar, to observe my directions and conditions pertaining to what I am offering and expecting in return. Mitzvah, any, my binding instructions regarding my contractual agreement and my authorized requests regarding this relationship, my inscribed and clearly communicated prescriptions for living, chukka, my engraved and thus written statements which have been chiseled in stone to communicate how one should respond to be cut into the relationship, from chaka and chalk, to carve out a share of something and cut someone into a relationship through a portrayal of nourishing thoughts, checker. Addressing that which can be discovered, explored, probed, and examined to gain information through a determined and comprehensive search to increase comprehension, and my Torah 91, Torah any, the source from which my teaching, guidance, instruction, and direction flow. Bears YTH/ in the beginning/ Genesis 26 verse 5. No further explanation required. The man who benefited most from it and contributed the most to it said of the Torah. Properly guided and happy, Asheri, blessed by favorably advancing along the straightforward path, making progress by being led and walking in the right direction, from Asher, shown how to receive the benefits of the relationship and to get the most out of life, is the way, Derek, is the journey and path, to becoming perfected, entirely right, and without limitation, Tamim, to becoming totally innocent, sound and perfectly healthy, whole and complete, unimpaired and impeccable, honest and correct, in absolute accord with the truth, demonstrating integrity and becoming upright, even righteous, are those who walk, ha-halak, are those who travel, journeying through life by proceeding, Kal participle, moving in a highly demonstrable and genuine manner, in, Ba, the Torah, the teaching and instruction, the guidance and direction, of Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yahowah our Eloah, God as directed in his Twrah, teaching regarding his Hayah existence and our Shalom WM, restoration. Mizmor/song/Psalm 119 verse 1.